Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi everybody. Hey, Daniel. What a fun night. I see you all in the chat. Welcome everyone there. We're here tonight to talk about season 2 of the Wheel of Time show, which just finished like 2 weeks ago, though Daniel watched it for the first time only 1 week ago. Like 1 week ago, like to the minute almost, kind of.
Yeah, holy crap. Did you plan that?
I wanted to talk to you after the season, and then I wanted to give you some cushion, like a little time to percolate. And so here we are, 1 week after Daniel's seen it, 2 weeks after I've seen it. And, I actually got a comment on one of my reaction videos early in the season that said, you should really talk to Daniel Greene about this. I think you guys would be a good team. And I was like, you're so right. So what I did was I screenshot that comment, sent it over to Daniel, and here we are. Like, look at us. Who would have thought? So Daniel, usually what I do whenever I have a live stream, and I feel like this is one of the times that it's one of those, like, my guest needs no introduction, but I usually let my guests introduce themselves. So if you want to do that and talk about anything you feel like, I know you have a book, like anything you want to talk about for the next however long, like, go for it. And
okay,
yeah.
Whatever I want to talk about for however long. I really want to talk about the Ent Wives. So the Ent Wives are a fascinating concept.
Amazing. Okay.
Well, I've been on your channel before, I believe, when we were in London together for the premiere of season 1.
Yeah.
So your audience may be aware, but I'm your YouTube fantasy news guy who has written some books, and I know, I would say, a decent amount about the Wheel of Time, like just a bit more than your average Joe, but not that much more, because the show's been doing all right, it seems. At least, I mean, they were doing it for season 3, which I remember back when season 1 was announced, people were like, no way we're getting a season 2. So at least we've made it to the, okay, we're definitely getting 3.
We've made it to the Shadow Rising. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, which they've said it's going to focus on book 4. So I'm curious how the events of 3, which we've gotten a lot of in season 2, are going to be the rest of them dispersed into season 4.
So you've written a book. What's the title?
Oh, Neon Ghosts.
Neon Ghosts.
Or A Witch's Sin, the first book of Neon Ghosts. And I'm currently writing a book now. I don't know if I've ever announced this on YouTube, but here you go. My next book is about a lawyer goblin who is assigned a case where he has to defend a Dark Lord. And he has all these moral conflicts about it because he believes everyone deserves legal representation, but this person is the worst. And so it's a really fun kind of moral play. I watched Better Call Saul while I played Baldur's Gate, and I was like, I can make this work.
Oh my gosh.
So that is the next book.
That's so fun. So it wasn't inspired by me then. For a second, I was like, wow, am I the only lawyer you know? Because that's really flattering, but no.
No,
Saul.
but I was going to ask if I could send ideas and terminology to you at certain points to be like, can you let me know where this would go?
Absolutely. I would love that.
I'm like 10,000 words in. I already have so many like breaks where I just put like, then legal things happen.
And then they conduct a deposition. What does that mean? Like, let me figure that out. Yeah, I would love that. That'd be great. Chat, love you all. This is amazing. Spoiler levels, such a good question. Okay, so at the outset, we are going to talk about our superlatives, so to speak, from the episode, or not the episode, the season, since the full season is out. We're going to talk about, bests, worsts, favorites, least favorites, stuff like that. And so that is going to be book spoiler free, except to the extent that the things that happen in the show align with what happens in the books, obviously.
Which pushes into book 3 a little.
Which pushes a little bit into book 3, but again, if you saw the show, full spoilers for the show so far, nothing from season 3, because we don't have anything from that yet, really. And then once we're done with the superlatives, which are just show only, we will switch to full book spoilers, because we're both major Wheel of Time book nerds, and then we'll talk about, how we feel about the show based on our experience with the books and what we might be expecting going forward, with what we know and where all the characters left off at the end. So I hope that helps. So, and I will show you, even though we're not doing spoilers yet, I'll show you, I have a little spoiler thing that I want to show off. I don't think Daniel can see this, but this is my spoiler marker. It's Lanfear. It says full book spoilers. I'm so sorry. and it says finally. But although I do love talking about, non-book things also, because I personally really like to look at the show as much as I can from like this is just by itself, lens. So is that okay, no, we're back to no book spoilers. How do you look at the show? like, how do you, for your review purposes and for to the extent you can just be a consumer?
Well, like the way I talk about the show on my channel is obviously very different than like how I talk about it with Kayla. Where like with Kayla, I'm able to just do like I kind of just do the full fanboy because this is the first time I'm able to share the story with her because she's not going to commit to reading 15 books if you include the prequel right now.
Sure.
And so she is going to get to it eventually, especially the more she watches the show. She's like, I love it. She's recently especially been like, Egwene's the best thing ever. I want to read Egwene's story.
She has good taste.
So just like in my day-to-day life, I'm able to have that kind of special shared time with Kayla. And then I have to do my full review or I want to communicate that side of it. And then also still have like, but of course these things bug me and they need to be addressed.
Yeah.
I think I put it to Sanderson. He asked me which I liked more, season 1 of Ring of Power, season 1 of Wheel of Time. And I ended up saying that I liked season 1 of Wheel of Time more because it made me feel a lot more. Like
Yeah.
Because I was so still connecting it to the books. And so there was anger at stuff. There was still joy at just seeing certain things realized. Whereas Rings of Power was like warm milk. It just went down. There was like, there's nothing.
Pretty, like strawberry milk. So it was like pink, shiny, like nice to look at, but not
like
as...
a little glitter got spilled in.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the cup just said Mordor for no reason.
Yes.
So yeah, I root for season 1. Summarizing what I'm saying, I really connected it with the books because I was still expecting an adaptation. I've learned a lot since then, especially what these streaming services mentalities are going to be with these big adaptations they're doing. Not all of them are going to be early seasons Game of Thrones, where it's not as loyal as people make it out to be, but pretty darn loyal.
Yeah.
And so I just fully was just trying to flip that switch to just be watching it for what it was. And maybe that's part of why I liked it so much more. But no, it is definitely a much better season than season 1. Though I think the ending was not. I think if you watched any of my thoughts, the ending was stumbled. There's still certainly things to enjoy about it. It's weird to see Perrin and Aviendha talking already. Or do they even
at all
in the books? I don't know if they exchange words. Okay. I would be surprised if the answer is yes. Do you remember if they do?
Well, I'm going to put a pin in this just because I don't know if they do, which isn't a spoiler. I'm not sure, but like I definitely want to talk to you about Aviendha's introduction because what it means for the books, but we can do that. We can do that. Oh no, Daniel, let me get him back 1 second. There he is. I don't know what happened. Coming.
Load with your audience. I
don't know what just happened. It may happen again. I don't know why that happens. Once again, Streamlabs is not my favorite. For reasons totally like this. Okay, so yeah, I definitely want to talk to you about that because I kind of liked the thing that they did, but I'm curious to see how you feel about it. Okay, so let's get into some of the superlatives. You kind of suggested that the end was a stumble for you. So what was your favorite episode?
My favorite episode is still going to be what I will just refer to as Egwene's episode, which is the one that really got into her and not Renee. Why do I want to keep calling her Renee? That's the name of my future stepmom. I don't know why my brain does that. But so their chemistry, the performances, the level of like depth of the abuse of the Shan-Chan, and I was afraid the show was going to just like not make the torture there as bad because it's a hard topic to cover, but not only did they fully lean into it, but I'd say they covered the types of gaslighting and abuse exceptionally well that are going on. So yeah, through and through, I think that is not only the best episode of the season, it's probably the best episode of the series so far, and I'd put it as one of my favorite episodes of a thing I've watched this year.
That's awesome.
It was really, really great. Granted, I just started Fall of the House of Usher, which has been amazing. So
really? I've been seeing a lot of stuff about it. I've been watching American Horror Story for the first time, and there's a lot of seasons. So really? I just finished season 2, and I'm like,
I stopped after 3. I have no idea what they're at.
Oh, okay. It's a lot. I don't even know, but I might need to put a pause on it to watch the Fall of the House of Usher.
Fall of the House of Usher is a Mike Flanagan thing, and I'm a Mike Flanagan hoe. Anything he touches, Midnight Mass, I'm all about.
Oh God, Midnight Mass was so good.
This is like if Midnight Mass added like a dash of Lemony Snicket vibes. Like it's got kind of that like but like
goofiness.
Dark.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway, Wheel of Time.
I would say if I'm picking my favorite episode, I agree with you. I think, but like, I know we're really different in this because I want to say you have previously said that your least favorite episode from the season was the finale. Is that true? Or was that Sanderson and I'm just putting it onto you?
I think it is my least favorite episode of the season, and I can get into why, which is actually why my season review is taking a bit longer. I'm like writing up
Yeah.
like essay on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my least favorite. What about you?
Okay, so like no, the finale for me, I think it was the most emotional for sure, and because I'm like a vibes girly for the most part, I don't worry as much about some other things. Like basically, if at the end of an episode or during the episode I'm feeling major feelings, like emotions, not like anger that the episode's bad, obviously, then it's a win for me. And so like I'd say the Egwene episode, which I think was episode 6.
Yes.
Yeah. Episode 6 and episode 8 are like neck and neck for me because all of the huge moments that happened in episode 8 had me just like laughing and laughing while I was crying and then crying because I was sad and like all of the stuff. And so, yeah, I'm like, I love that. Like we're so opposite in that. But yeah, so I'm curious then. Obviously, Egwene absolutely slayed episode 6, and I feel like that's probably why we're on the same page with that one. But like, why episode 8? Why the meh?
So I think, it's so hard not to bring this up. I think Sanderson had a really good point where a lot of the arcs that felt like they needed to have kind of a resonant note to end on didn't really ring in this episode. And season 7, that'd be a nice thing to talk about.
Wouldn't that?
Episode 7 did so much to be like episode 8. It's gonna be a big payoff for these emotional moments. And for so many of those emotional moments, I just wasn't getting a conclusion to something that had been building the whole time. I had some things that I just were like plot lines I didn't really care about that were brought to resolution, like Lan and Moraine's conflict, which is maybe my least favorite thing from the whole season. It makes no sense. I'm so mad about it. But yeah, I wanted more of that, just not the overt storytelling, but the more meta, like, stories throughout the season to really come kind of flourishing. And yeah, a lot of Jordan's themes were about like the light wins because you can rely on your friends, where the shadow can't, because like the Forsaken, they can't rely on each other, which the show did realize that.
Yeah.
But like the Two Rivers people, they tried to be like, oh, we're all winning because we're friends, but it was more like, why? Like there wasn't things that needed to add together for me to agree with that, which was being asserted.
Okay.
That's the phrasing my brain landed on for some reason.
Hey, I mean, I understood what you were saying. I tend to agree with you about the Moraine and Lan plot in the sense that, like, episode 1 was actually my least favorite episode this season. And honestly, I feel like it just kind of, for me, went pretty much up from there, because episode 2 was probably my second least favorite, right? So it was literally like, but episode 1, my biggest problem with it was I didn't care, like, this Moraine and Lan thing. As a book reader, I came in with book baggage, and I thought, there's no way this is how those two are going to react to this scenario. Like, I just didn't believe that because of them in the books. I was just like, this is just, they're being petty with each other. They're not communicating, which is very Jordan. But, like, at the same time, like, yeah. I feel like they wouldn't do that. But then by the end, by episode 8, it was like, seeing how they came back together, how Moraine confessed to, like, spinning the Aes Sedai lie about Lan, like she believed that he was better than her all along, all of that stuff that I was like, that happened during the season, that I was like, this is what she means, he's doing this, like he's gonna fix this for her, all this other stuff, like finally it all came together, and they like, it was just like, again, a really emotional moment that I really enjoyed, also because the actors just like, they really sold me on it, like Daniel Henney and Rosamund in that scene on the beach was just so incredibly acted, in my opinion. So yeah.
This show benefits from a cast that is fully committed to these characters, and they, even when the show I think is only serving like well and not great, they elevate it to at least good.
Yeah.
I especially Yosha Stradowski, he's been not given a whole lot for Rand. The show's been kind of focusing, and I think on a lot of the side characters. I think this season 3 is gonna be really like the Dragon Reborn season.
Yeah.
Despite it supposedly skipping the Dragon Reborn.
Well, the irony of the Dragon Reborn, well, we're not going to do book spoilers, but let's just say that it's not as focused on Rand as you might expect.
Oh yeah, like, for sure.
Given the title.
And I think that's why book 4 is going to be, we've been told it's going to be folded into season 3, because they've done like a really good job of setting up the cast around him. Matt is just built as a character. You get him. Perrin has sure done a lot of cardio, and Lan and Moraine, despite their arc from season 2 kind of contradicting how close they were in season 1, like so much of the screen time has been devoted to these because it makes sense. They're the biggest actors in the show that like we understand. It's like if you watch Lord of the Rings and you understood everybody but Aragorn. We need that like Aragorn. Okay, let's finally build him up.
Yeah.
But Yosha's been doing still a lot. Like his
Yeah.
chemistry with Natasha O'Keefe was exactly what it needed to be. Who,
Mhm.
aside from Madeline Madden's Gwaine, is the performance of the season. If you want to get me invested in a show, add some splashy villains.
And damn, did they do that?
Yes.
Like
And that's not to
Leandrin
take away-
too.
Yeah, and that's not to take away from Farah, who did just exquisite work with the Shamael. I can't say what I'm about to say because book spoilers. Sorry. But yeah, villains. I maintain a fantasy show can only be as interesting as its villains, and they are responsible, I think, for so much of the stakes that were missing in season 1 finally really feeling like they were landing here.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the questions that I wrote down for our superlatives was top 3 characters in the season for us. Like, and so you kind of mentioned, I feel like based on what you just said, I kind of know, but how about we just do like each of us pick our first one?
And we can't pick the same person. We got to limit it.
Whoa, I was
First
gonna
pick
see it.
Gwaine.
No, stop! I was gonna say I feel like we were both gonna pick Gwaine. So
Madeline Madden was delivered the best quality writing of the season, and she only elevated it into something that felt exquisite. I would literally put her name forward as like one of the best performances of a fantasy show this year, and the amount of anger building under the surface, I feel like reflects a part of Egwene that is present there in the books. She is someone who has a lot of anger for what was done to her by the Shan-Chan and other reasons.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see that. Nynaeve kind of takes the anger spotlight in the books, but there's a lot of anger in Egwene too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my top number 1.
Okay, well, since
you can't pick.
Since you established the rules that I can't pick it, I'll pick Natasha O'Keefe as Lanfear then.
Very fair.
So, yeah, I think what you were saying about villains just really elevating something, and the fact that she's giving Loki and, like, the complicated, what the hell is she on about? Like, is she a full villain? Is she trying to help Rand? Like, there's a lot of things that she's just so fascinating and sexy and unhinged. And, like, there's so much about her that I'm just like, why do I love you? Like, in the books, I could take or leave her. Like, she was so cringe in book 2 because of how, like, much she fawned over Rand. Like, mild spoilers. But in the show, she's just, like, this competent woman who's, like, doing whatever she wants and threatening his life and, like, all this other stuff. So I'm just like, damn, girl. Like, okay.
Totally. I think one of the things that was the smart choice there was to allow her to not be... she's portrayed as a mature woman, not like the Lanfear from the books, who, as you said, is kind of just like fawning over Rand like a girl, but it feels like a performance and it's kind of cringy. Natasha O'Keefe, she steps in with like that. Every time I'm in a room, you're alive because I want you to be. Like, and I think that it added that edge that Fane gave some of in season 1, but not much else did.
Yeah, I feel okay. So I guess you get to go now. Who's your second favorite?
I'm gonna. I actually might surprise myself now that I think about it. I think Donald Flynn. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say his name.
Donald Finn, actually.
Donald Finn, thank you.
Yeah.
So many people would just type like, "Oh, his name is pronounced this," and they just put his name, and I was like,
"Yeah." No, somebody in my TikTok literally like did the whatever they're called, where they're like Don, as in like, I can't even whatever. But yeah, it's Donald, like Donald.
He was given a hard task. He had to pick up a character that someone else had not only already embodied, but embodied in a way that many people considered their favorite performance from the first season. That's tough.
Yeah.
And from what I remember from just about everyone I've talked to, it was his first scene with him where they went, "Oh, this is a great Matt," where he's doing pantomime and he's doing the scenery, and it's like, damn. And he doesn't feel like he's trying to do Barney Harris's Matt. Not that would be a bad choice, but he's very much so doing his own Matt. Which he didn't get too many scenes bonding with a bunch of the friends. He got a lot with Rand comparatively.
Yeah.
But I'm now pumped to see him not just be around Min and Leandra and people who are playing him, but I want to see this Matt's, one-on-one. How much sass is he going to give Nynaeve?
Yeah.
Because he feels a little more sassy, a little less dark than the Matt we got before, which I think made his hero of the Horn moment. Well, I had problems with it. I still felt the emotion. Like I was still like, I blew it.
I happy cried.
Yeah. And then he belts out that old tongue, and that I was like, damn, I didn't think you'd be able to like push yourself up there with Barney Harris's image of Matt for me, but now I never had a really clear face of Matt from the books, but now I
didn't either. Yeah.
My dad apparently said he pictured Matt as like a young Harrison Ford, and I was like, that's way too handsome. That's way too handsome for Matt.
See, I thought he was always well, okay, we're getting into book spoilers, kind of. He struck me as self-deprecating while still being incredibly attractive, but no, there were no pictures in my brain for him. Yeah. Okay, so that's a really good choice. I was like struggling with that slot because I did love everything that I saw from Donal. But he just didn't get enough. Like I wanted way more out of him. And
he left us wanting.
He left us wanting. It's so true. So
I'm mad of him.
True. So my second place, assuming I can't pick any of the other ones that have already been picked. I'm gonna say Nynaeve.
Damn it! I was gonna next. God damn! All right.
Suck it. Yeah. So I think episode 3 is just incredibly strong. Like Nynaeve's test. Like as you know, it could be a bottle episode essentially, but like it's just her struggling and fighting and being herself, and the end of that episode was so impactful and just heartbreaking, and she absolutely sold it. And then. So that like emotion, like she really did it in episode 3, combined with the comedy. Like she was one of the biggest comedic relief elements in this season, because in the very first episode, she chugs that nasty water and it's like, didn't say it had to be clean, deuces, like that's so Nynaeve to me. The fact that like she told Loyal to stop fawning over Elaine, all of that stuff, like she's so fabulous. And then the plot with Leandrin, while slightly different, was also really compelling. So I like Nynaeve a lot this season.
Before I pick my number 3, can I go a little bit of Nynaeve rant here too?
Yeah, bring it on. Absolutely.
Because I had some issues with the accepted test they did for Moraine. Or for Nynaeve. Yeah, I think overall Zoe Robbins did such a good job of bringing that emotion, where I even said in my review, I was like, I had my nitpicks, but all of them just evaporated the second she screamed. And it was just
yeah.
But even later in the season, in these scenes that drove me, like they bothered me so much, where her and Elaine were just doing nothing for such a long period of time, where she was just like, yeah, your knee sucks. All right, they're going to come back to us in a bit. Your knee is still really going to suck. But even in those moments where I thought like everything around him's not working, she still is able to deliver this very like soft panic attack that always strikes me as being very in character, where, Nynaeve is angry because she feels out of control, because she can feel afraid. Like those are a lot of the motivations for her anger in the series. And despite the actress not being everything that overtly communicates that, I feel like she's gone the extra mile to understand that about her character and still bring it so that you as the viewer still get that angle to the character.
Yeah. She's amazing. I think also, while we're on Nynaeve, because I do want to talk about the way that her landing was probably the worst out of all of them, right? Her in episode 8 she didn't do much. Everybody else had more to do, which is fine, in my opinion, because, one, Zoe has had just a lot to do in the Wheel of Time show generally. Like, she was the MVP of season 1.
For sure.
And she had basically an entire episode to herself in episode 3. And so, I was fine with giving other people stuff to do, especially because at the end of episode 3, she was fully traumatized, right? Like she lived an entire life, not an entire life, but she had like a child who had grown up and she lost that child, right? And so I totally understand how she would be struggling with her power and not able to channel, right? Because, well, we're not doing books, but like she has a block, as we can all see, and to me it makes sense that the block would be like extra firm after having experienced what she experienced, including having Rima get captured essentially because of her, because she had that burst of power that she couldn't control, right? So that to me made sense, even though obviously we want to see Nynaeve slay. That, like, obviously that's what we want to see, but sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and that's the struggle with the show, where I feel like, yeah, if you dig out some extra like nuggets, do the extra mile, there are like these things that are set up in there. I just wish they were communicated a little more efficiently, because I feel like I'm having to constantly stop and explain things to Kayla.
Yeah.
Which isn't. I don't think that's, maybe just also her. She really likes when I say like, oh well, here's what they're doing for the book. Here's what they're saying. She likes when I do that, so maybe that's just me being me. But it's just, we need 12 episodes. I want 3 episodes of just them doing lore explanations. I want the
and this is how you link.
Pauses, where like Moraine makes a reference, then we cut to her in an office chair, like, so okay, this is what I'm talking about.
God, please, 12 episodes, like 10 minimum, please, like that. Yeah, I even though I loved episode 8, there were things about it where I was like, either give us 20 more minutes or give us another episode, or like whatever, because like they didn't show them capturing the horn, right? And of course I was like, oh, they have the horn already. Okay, like I wish I could have seen that, but okay, like, and then we just move on. But like, if I could have seen that, and apparently it's been found out by some interview or something that they did have, well, let's just say that Ingtar's death was more expanded. They shot that. That's a thing that they have. And so the fact that that wasn't in the episode makes me like, oh, that would have been so good. But yeah, we need more time. I think that's the biggest takeaway.
I just, in my head canon, Loyal just came in and asked for the horn really nicely, and the guards were like, it was so polite. Yeah, man. Like, that's my head canon now. You don't show me, I get to assume. So my assumption is Loyal, he's got a lot of charisma, and I think he just
rolled a nat 20.
He was like, look at us. All right, this is a horn. This is silly. Let's just give a little trade. And they were like, yeah.
Okay, man. It's like, I'll sing to your trees or your houseplants. They won't die for a year. Guaranteed.
Moments that got all the emotions from me. Mm-hmm. It was such a just fan service moment to be like, and now Loyal's singing, but like I was like, I don't care. It's great. Let's keep it going. Drop a beat in. It's fantastic.
Right. Like the sun is shining. The costumes are fabulous. They're on chaise lounges, and Loyal is singing. Of course, we're all just like, let's just take a minute and like soak that in. What a lovely experience.
When the credits rolled, I was like, and now we're gonna get that song singing again from Loyal to like finish it out, and they didn't do that. I was like, come on, easy moment. Give me the rest of that song.
Missed opportunities. Thatcher says Loyal got the horn from Lanfear. Yeah, but like the fact that it was literally like a lady from Carrion helped us. Let's move on. Wouldn't you have wanted to see them get it? Like I would have wanted to see them get it. Like, yeah.
And
so
I'm sorry, he's just covering for the really polite guard. There was no woman from Carrion. Loyal being a nice guy and not wanting to get a guard in trouble. So he was like, oh yeah, there's Noble came out of nowhere.
It's like wild, absolutely crazy. Where are we? Okay, so we were talking about Nynaeve, right? That was where we ended. So you have your third favorite, not from the ones we've already picked.
My third favorite, I think it's gonna go to. I think you say his name, Farah.
I say Faris, but it's truly me just guessing. So like, what I don't know.
Dyslexia. People get so angry at me, and I'm like, I fuck up my name. Sorry.
Oh, you're okay.
And so yeah, maybe it's also because I'm so surprised how much I love it, because Faris, in season 1 was so iffy. We didn't get enough. I didn't feel like it really got its firmly feet planted. This is the character. Mm-hmm. And in season 2, I feel like the actor knew I was thinking that and went, okay, let me show you what I got. Because he did the number one golden thing for a villain to do, in my opinion, which is violate people's personal space. If you're a villain and you step over that line, even with just like a hallucination with Rand in bed, if you show me you are just like, I'm that powerful, I don't care, I'll do what I want. Like, he gets too close to his subordinates, it just adds that and then he goes beyond that with being this almost like not joyous, in contrast to book version of him, joyous interpretation of his philosophy, where he's like, yes, this is all bad. Like he is Mr. Meeseeks the Forsaken. Existence is pain, so let's just end it all. And
Yep.
we understood that with him still being able to choose scenery. He wasn't just a sad boy. He was having fun with Lanfear. And I thought, it's a mistake to not make him mad early on. I thought so many things were not going to work out. And despite a lackluster death, in my opinion, the whole journey with him, I got so much of early Ishamael, late Ishamael, and it just all worked for me.
Okay. Yeah. This is tough. This last one for me.
Can I also do an honorable mention of new favorite character?
Oh, that was going to be one of the questions. But yeah, go ahead. Or we can do that next. We'll do that next. Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. So like, first of all, I'm going to honorable mention Liandrin because I'm not going to pick her as my final. Like Kate Fleetwood, amazing. Her acting, but like, I feel like I have to pick.
Those eyes and that jaw are just...
It's wild. Absolutely insane. God, this is so hard. But...
She's stunning.
Okay, I think...
I feel like I'm about to talk you into picking Liandrin. Pick Liandrin.
No, I'm not going to! I think Rand. I think it's going to be Rand. I was deciding between Rand and Perrin because Perrin and Hopper and their moments together brought me a lot of joy. Like, they really did. But I just think that I got to see the progression from soft boy Rand, who's like handing coins to little urchins and helping out Aiel. Is that the guy in the insane asylum? I think it's Aiel.
Oh, I just thought of him as in my head. I was thinking, now I forget the name of the character. I was thinking of him as the character from One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. We got Soft Boy Rand, which was super fun. We got like Darth Rand, kind of, with like the Indiana Jones moment. That was so satisfying to me. I really liked that scene. And his relationship with Lanfear was just intoxicating. And so, and like, Moraine gets a little bonus point for like this throat slitting situation, but like Rand was involved too. He was there. So yeah,
that guy's young and impressible. That's gonna leave an impression on him. Jesus Christ.
It's true. So
in that moment, he's like, I am so confused.
What is happening? Although, the fact that he was like, okay, Moraine, I believe you. Let's go. That was, so yeah, I think it's Rand just because, bye. Okay. God, I swear to God, Streamlabs is going to drive me insane. Give me a moment. I will bring him back. So sorry about that.
All good. I don't know if it's me in front of your audience or you when that happens, so I just start talking. I'm like, hi. It's been a good day.
As far as I know, it's you that disappears, but like, correct me if we're wrong, chat, but I don't know what the hell happens. But yeah, it's Rand because just Lanfear bonus points and the fun things that he did get to do. He broke Moraine's shield, which was such a relief. More than anything, an insane relief. We finally got his little scene with Lan, like the little training montage. Hopefully we get more. Well, according to Rafe, we will get more, so that's very exciting, like actual sword training. But yeah, he gave me enough stuff throughout the season that would put him in my third slot, assuming everybody that we picked before doesn't get to count.
I like that they're making shield such a problem in season 2, so that the excuse of needing to learn a sword, because what if you get shielded again, like, will really make sense to anyone paying attention. Because I feel like if they had just heard about shielding and someone's like, you need to learn in case you're shielded, the new viewers would be like, really? Is that a problem? No, you get that that's a problem.
Yeah, no.
It sucks.
Dear God. Get Rand something to fight with. Yeah, so... Let's see. So, best newcomer. Let's move on.
Quickly, actually, if you don't mind, I want to say about Rand's performance.
Not at all.
Also feel like Yosha, without getting into any spoilers, he understands where Rand needs to get in those final stages, but he also understands how much of a emotional roller coaster it is to get there.
Yeah.
So he's understanding to give like peaks of like the potential of Rand, and also like we're getting peaks, as you said, with like Darth Rand, where he looks his most Hayden Christensen yet.
Yep.
Where we understand like this is not going to be a smooth chosen one ride, where it's going to be like 50s fantasy where it's like everything's okay. No.
No.
But favorite newcomer gotta be Elaine. Elaine, just so
you stole her. Damn it.
Perfect for every single bit of characterization we need for that. Noble, but she's still got a heart of gold. I actually, in hindsight, really like her introduction of like getting all these bonus things, having them taken away, and then she's trying to cover for the people because she didn't even know. So like, it makes her that innocent, good leader, but it also shows that she is maybe not totally aware of her privilege, and people like Egwene are going to have, you know, things to point out to her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she also just chemistry with Egwene, chemistry with Nynaeve, and immediately that conflict from the book where like the more power that gets involved, their friendship struggle as a result, and Elaine has to sometimes be the middle negotiator. You see that all being set up so well. So I'm excited to say, yeah, I love the Wheel of Time books. Part of that reason is for the melodrama. I'm excited to see that melodrama like built up. I'm gonna be like, let's straight up Dawson's Creek it. All right,
let's do it. Amazing. Yeah. That would have she would have been my choice, favorite newcomer, just because she is absolutely perfect. She's just incredible. Like she went from goofy, like getting drunk with her friend in her dorm room, to like holding Nynaeve's hand and like keeping her from rescuing Rima so they could rescue Egwene. Like the range that she showed as Elaine perfectly is just it was incredible. Yeah.
The final thing, she also might be the most exactly to how I pictured in the book casting yet. She is just Elaine. Like you look at her and you're like, oh, okay. Like as soon as the rumors were like, oh, this actress has involved the show, I was like, gee, I wonder who that could be.
It's such a mystery. Yeah, she's great. And honestly, well, book spoilers, never mind. Her introduction in the show was really, really good. I'll put it that way. I was sad that we didn't get her in the book 1, but I think they did a really good job bringing her in book 2.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get a version of that in the show maybe, but no, they just did this, which is fine.
Honestly, it's kind of similar.
Yeah, kind of. Like, yeah, you just switch out
people who are present. No, we're not. Okay. You just switch out who's present at the time that Rand looks up and sees her. That's all. Okay. So I guess I have to pick my favorite newcomer, not Elaine. And that person is going to be... Avienda. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Avienda. I'm a huge Aiel stan. The Maidens of the Spear are, like, my homies. Growing up, I play video games. I'm like a gamer or whatever. And one of my first gamer tags was Fardares Mai. So like whenever Avienda showed up, I was like, yeah, this is great. And then I think it was her first episode. She kicks a bunch of White Cloaks' ass, right? So great introduction. Really solid introduction. I feel like Ayula is selling it. I think she's got that like dry humor, and like the difference between the humor between Aiel and Wetlanders is already showing, which I'm super into. And then we got some of her maidens, Baden Shiad, fellow maidens, and their dynamic was fun too, I thought. So, although I want to honorable mention everybody who is new, Varen included. She was really fun to watch. Little Inspector Varen.
I want to specifically mention Dane Bornhold.
Oh, yes!
I am now more interested in the White Cloaks than the Forsaken going forward, which is saying a lot because Natasha is incredible. But because of how perfectly the internal turmoil of the White Cloaks and external has been brought into the show, I like the whole conflict with Perrin. I am now chomping to get. Because I do think that Marcus Rutherford hasn't been given enough, but I think what we have seen shows he has amazing potential as Perrin. So once he gets that opportunity to stop walking, start acting, it will be really great to see how that, even in those moments where, like, you know, Dane Bornhold sees him killed, not Gerald Bornhold, Jephram. God.
Gerald
You're all getting a look into my brain. That's how it works. It's Gerald from accounting. Yeah, so I don't know. I can't wait to see how that foil is played with, because it's the most true to the book, and it's one that I love from the books.
Yeah, that one's gonna be whenever we predict what's happening. Well, I guess just based on the show alone, seems like Perrin's gonna have a bit of a blood feud with the White Cloaks going forward, which amazing. I'm super into that.
And him and Gerald, man, you know that scene where he killed Jerbear.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so actually, since we're on the White Cloaks and Perrin, I did have a fun little question for you. Who would you rather be besties with? Or let's say go on a road trip with? Elaine or Hopper?
both.
I was like, what would be the hardest possible thing to decide between? Like, and that's what I landed on. So
Hugely dependent on where we're going.
ooh, such a good point.
Yeah, if we're going to like hang out in like Yellowstone National Park, obviously Hopper. I want to like just hang out and be like, this is great. If it's like a night on the town in New Orleans, still Hopper. That'd be amazing. But if I'm on my way to like, you know, an important meeting and I need a really like intelligent, like political person with me, Elaine, well, no, maybe Hopper for that too. I know I get bonus points for having a cute
I'm sensing that your answer is Hopper.
No, in all seriousness, like if I'm going to like just road tripping, all kinds of stops in random nature places, Hopper. If it's like we're hitting these cities, Elaine.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that's a good little.
What is happening with my hair? Sorry,
I don't know.
I'm having a war with my.
Having a headset on with hair, it's a difficult situation. I can totally.
I just somehow look very 80s newscaster, and this has never happened.
I think you look great. Everyone in the chat is Elaine. Wow.
That's offensive to Hopper.
Disrespect.
Jesus.
Like
Hopper. Well, you didn't clarify Hopper alive, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, true. Obviously.
If it was his current condition, I might want to revise my answer.
Fair enough. Okay, so another one of these like this or that questions that I wrote out for you. Who would you rather be in a blood feud with, Lanfear or Ishamael? And this is based on their season 2 selves, by the way. Not no.
Die. Like, let's get that. I'm dying. You're asking me who would I rather kill me? From what we've seen from Ishamael on the show, he is more into the like long form game torture. Like he shielded Moraine. Like he's setting up these pawns and positions. Lanfear just decapitated somebody.
A fast death.
Also, because she's doing it, a sexy death. We'll take a fast, sexy death over a slow manipulation any day. So
okay.
I'm gonna go with just having my head chopped off.
My toxic trait is thinking, oh, if it, Lanfear's more devious. At least that's how it seems in the show. So we're basing it on the show. So I like in my brain, I could escape Ishamael. Like, I wouldn't have to fight him. I could just outrun him, or like I could philosophize him to death. They're like, convince him to let me stab him.
All you need to do is put on Boulevard of Broken Dreams
exactly.
and like light up a joint, and you and him can have a heart to heart.
That's what I mean. I think I could turn him back to the light if I'm honest.
You just turn on like the sounds of silence on a boombox.
Yeah,
and weeping.
Like, imagine. Yeah, so I'm picking a shot first.
You're like boombox outside of his window with the pressing playlist that's ever been put together.
So basically, my playlist from freshman year of college. Okay, so. Another question I had, most improved character from season 1, or if there's something else like, that sticks out to you, that's not a character.
Well, we did get Leandrin in season 1, and I kind of was like meh about her in season 1. In season 2, she has grabbed brains and just, again, the villains are where the show is at. So
Good point.
Might give it to her because she was in season 1. She wasn't as big a focus, but she has become a great introduction to the Black Aja. So I'm gonna go with Leandrin.
Okay, I am gonna go with Perrin on this one because Perrin in season 1 to me was the sad boy nothing guy. Like he was just there and he was sad for the most part, right? And then we got the love triangle in episode 7, which was my least favorite thing about episode 7, and like because episode 7 was my favorite episode, mainly because of the cold open and because of the dragon reveal. But so Perrin was not my favorite in season 1, and in season 2 he was up there. He almost got into my top ranking because of his relationship with Hopper, his relationship with Aviendha, the fact that he got to be Captain America in episode 8, like all of that
I have not made that comparison in my head yet. That's great.
So I think Perrin just he really came into his and Elias. How did I forget about Elias? He really finally got to do some wolfy stuff and do a little more acting, right? His conversation with Ingtar about Fane, all of that stuff. Like, he stepped it up.
You said Elias, for some reason my head went Elias Ventura, and I don't know why now I'm picturing Ace Ventura being a wolf brother to Perrin.
Well, that makes sense, actually.
There is definitely fanfic on Wattpad about that.
There's something
Someone
there. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's see. Oh, here we go. Best arc.
I think the show struggled with arcs, but the one character who I think did fully show exactly what I wanted to see, but in a good way, is Matt. I think the inner turmoil of Matt, his feeling of guilt for betraying in season 1, which still feels clunky, but it had to be there, and I think they've done a really good job of making up for someone leaving the show. And the moment at the end where he blows the horn and he realizes he can be a hero, like, that is Matt. Matt is someone who, like, yeah, you think you can tempt to the dark side, but actuality, you're barking up the wrong tree. This is someone who will climb into a fortress to save someone. He is he's the best friend of the Wheel of Time. Matt is the best friend to have in Wheel of Time, period.
Yeah.
Outside of Hopper.
Outside of Hopper. So true. Let's see. That's best arc for me. Well, okay. It's going to be Egwene. Even though I think she started strong, like, generally, she went from insecure, right, always comparing herself to Nynaeve, White Tower novice, to, obviously, she got enslaved, temporarily broken, and then came back absolutely swinging. Not to mention, actually, Taviran Tavern on Twitter pointed this out, and it was such an interesting thing. I believe it was episode 1 or 2, early in the season. Egwene said something like, if I knew more, if I had trained more, if I, whatever, I would have been able to help Rand at the Eye of the World. And then come episode 8, she's up on the tower protecting Rand, right, while he's down. Like, obviously she was going down, like, she was gonna fail until Perrin showed up, but the fact that she just took, like, she went from there all the way over here, overcame, just, like, the inspiration, the badass, like, I told you I was gonna kill you type of a thing, all of that, like, she's my favorite character for a reason. And granted, like, in the series, in the show, in season 1, she wasn't my favorite character, but in season 2, she definitely was.
I really hope the writer's room one day for the episode where Egwene does not have a line of dialogue aside from "I will kill you," which I think is such a great choice. I hope the writer's room for that, whenever they came up with that idea, they went, "That's it for today. Good job, everybody. Let's go home."
We're taking off early. That was a good one. Yeah, no, that was so good.
And it speaks to the performance as well, that they're like, they knew they had someone who could carry that. That's a huge ask of an actor, to not only have one line, but also have something covering part of your face. And yet we all got it. Like, it still followed through. So don't worry, I've done that a million
It's fine. Everything's fine.
So yeah, a credit there for sure.
Okay. So I guess, what do you think the softest, well, you probably already said this, your least favorite arc of the season?
I'm sorry, it's Perrin.
Really?
It's sorry. It's me. I just needed so much more agency from him, instead of him just bouncing around from places and kind of just at the end holding up a shield that he was very politely given for a reason, I'm sure someone knows. So I guess, he gets given that shield because Uno was like, "You look unarmed, and I'd rather use knives," and that was that. And well, actually, I want to say no. I almost regret that, because I did like his chemistry with Avienda. I did like what is set up for him with the White Cloaks, but none of that is a character arc. And it's making me very interested in what's to come to him. But it's like, I can't tell you what changed in him this season, because I don't think really anything did.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because we know in season 1 he was someone who would, fight for his friends. We knew he would overcome grief to do what's right.
Yeah.
And we knew he was strong, so we didn't really get a whole lot new from him.
That's fair,
in my opinion. But I do like that he got another confrontation with Aemon Valda, and Valda definitely remembered, okay, I'm good to take out Perrin, and then he's like, "Oh, Perrin has the advantage. Run!" Not a good situation anymore.
Okay. I didn't know who I was going to pick for this. Actually, I thought maybe I'd pick Moraine or Lan, because I didn't like the beginning, but I did like the end, so I guess that's an arc. But
I do like that Lan was so badass in that fight scene, he made an archer retire. There's an archer shooting at him. No one kills.
He's like,
the
fine.
Archer catch 2 arrows. He's like, okay. I'm done.
I guess that's it.
The first one wasn't a fluke. I'm out of here. I am arming him.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's Min, probably, actually. It was fun in the beginning, and then it got less fun, and then she disappeared. So that's probably where I'm at. Like, I like this version of Min. I think she's probably a little more compelling than Min gets eventually in the books, even though early Min, I think, is more interesting in the books. No spoilers. The fact that she's got a darker backstory in the show, I like. But the like interplay with... Oh, bye. Oh my god, this is driving me nuts. Let's see when he comes back. One moment.
Back?
Yeah, you're back. Sorry. I was saying the interplay between her and Ashamia was kind of a bummer, because it was like, granted, she was under kind of a duress, but I didn't like any interaction with the dark, because I want Min to be better than that. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe I'll piss off book fans. I'm just curious to see where this interpretation of Min goes. I'm not ruling it out, because they have landed some of their original stuff so far, and having her just be full on, like, not dark friend, but dark acquaintance, it lends an edge that I think could be developed if the show manages to continue on this upward trend.
Okay.
And there's a large section of the series where Min's just out, not really doing much.
True.
And in a show and an adaptation like this, you can't really have a character who's just gone, not serving a purpose. So I think it also provides an opportunity with Min kind of verging more into this shadowy territory to have more characters that need to be folded in through her. And as long as they don't really break her character with what any of it is, I think that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Like, I'm optimistic. Let's put it that way. Like, they could do some really cool stuff with her. I just think in this season in particular, and she wasn't a main character by any stretch of the imagination, so like it's not exactly her fault. But well, book spoilers. She does more in book 2 than she does in season 2. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I'm at. Softest arc for me. Okay, do I have any other...
I do want to say, though, my big sad is that we didn't get the... I don't think we're going to get the I'll just say the tower training ground scene. I really wanted that to be our introduction to this new Matt, because it's like the greatest Matt scene. And we didn't get that as an introduction. I just thought it could have been great. And I don't even see how it could really happen now, but...
There are things... We'll talk about that. Actually, I'm kind of at the end of my, like, non-book spoilers, so I kind of want to make the transition right now so we can talk about this. So I'm going to put up the Lanfear spoilers thing, everyone. This is our intermission. Please, if you do not want to be spoiled on the books, now is your chance to peace. I appreciate you being here. It's been a blast. I see you all talking in the chat. And if you haven't liked the stream before you leave, please consider it and all of that.
Or dislike it, because that's still engagement. YouTube counts it both the same way.
So do follow your heart, but we're going full book spoilers. Full book spoilers. So this is your warning. Thank you. Okay, so I believe Rafe in a Q&A said something along the lines of the quarterstaff scene, which is what you're talking about, the Matt and his quarterstaff with Galad and Gawain, right? They're trying to figure out a way to get it in to make it fit organically. And we know kind of that we're going to be in Camelin, at least for part of season 3. So part of me thinks Matt's going to end up in Camelin somehow, maybe bringing a letter, which is a thing that happens in book 3. I don't know what, like, maybe, I don't know. And that's when it's going to happen. Or,
point.
Yeah, so, like, I think we could still get it, but it might be different in some way.
Let me rephrase what I was saying. I love that scene in the context also that it's there in the books, and I don't think we can get that context. We can get the scene, but for that scene for Matt in the books, he's kind of coming out of his lowest low, and yet he's still able to do this thing that really shows you, like, what he can be. We've seen what Matt can be now, so we can't have that, like, and we saw he gained these quarterstaff powers. It won't have the same impact. I am sure we can still get Donald giving us an absolutely fantastic, making some preppy, snobby, super rich, annoying boys eating dirt scene, and I will love it. Like, it'll be
the context will be different, though. You're totally right.
So.
You're right. Okay, so gosh, now we're in full book spoilers. This is crazy.
Can I say something about a Shamuel I couldn't say before?
Yeah, absolutely.
We got, like, there were tinges of madness with him. So it's like we got Moraine and Shamuel together. And I was so pleased with that, like, realization where he feels like that cold, calculated menace that we get later in the series. But he also occasionally is like, man, these birds are a great metaphor for my death. So we get a little of each end of it. And that's what I think is the most impressive of, like, the original creation from the show so far. Pulling off that character in a way that does justice to, I feel like, 2 versions of that character.
Yeah, even 3, you know?
Yeah.
Elon, like Age of Legends, he's the philosopher, you know, he's friends with Lanfear and Luz.
It was such a smart choice to emphasize that Lanfear, Shamuel, and Luz were friends. Like that, I was so afraid that would be lost, but in the last 2 episodes, they said it like 3 times just to be like, remember this.
Do you see what's happening here? Yeah, those 2, 3, like the little like triangle that they had going on there. Obviously, Rand didn't interact with them both simultaneously much, but when it did happen, or like in the World of Dreams, when Lanfear pretended to be Rand, all of these things that were happening, and they had these like conversations in the World of Dreams. I don't know. I was just eating every scene that they were in together up, personally.
That scene where, like, the first time I watched that scene where he's like touching Rand's face and everything, and you don't know it's Lanfear, in my head I was like, stop it.
Get off of him.
Off that boy.
Yeah, that was upsetting. A little bit upsetting, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so we had some changes between the books and the show, obviously. I personally think one improvement for me, and we kind of alluded to this, well, we're already talking about the Forsaken, was Lanfear and Rand's relationship, and the fact that we didn't get traveling Rand, we got Carian Rand, in hiding Rand. I thought that was kind of fabulous. I don't know. How did you feel about it?
I don't want to... So I want to say the smartest choice here is when you make creative decisions, like allowing Lanfear to be a little bit older than she comes across in the books, it doesn't just change the like literal text, it changes how you view that relationship, because we come in with expectations from our society and our world. And so it was a really great way to also just implant, even if you didn't know who Lanfear is, this is someone more experienced. This is someone who could manipulate him if they wanted to. Rand is still just country boy out in the world. And it was so venomous feeling from the start, but in a way where you're like, I do the same thing, Rand. Pretty spicy.
I get it.
So it's like, yeah, like even like my girlfriend who's straight was like, I would so do it. Like, she was
same. Like I was over here just like, why is she so hot to me? Like I'm straight as an arrow, but goddamn, like
and
wow.
They are folding Semirog into her character a little bit, it seems. Has that been confirmed that they are cutting it down?
No. They, you know, there was the line in the show where Lanfear said, Mogedion, Grendel, and the boys, implying there are no more females.
Yes.
Right? Like, if reading between the lines, that's how it seems. Also, I believe there were not the full number of seals in Shamuel's room. But then on Twitter, I want to say, Rafe said something like, you know, you only know, he said maybe like, I can neither confirm nor deny there aren't more Forsaken, but that could have been an allusion to like Taim, for example, like more, you know, like something like that.
I'm going to assume they're merging Semirog in. And if they are,
it's a decent assumption, yeah.
It was a well done fold in, but it added that like flair to also making her feel like a little out of time, because like her fashion choices are so bonkers that like at a point you're like, okay, this is either some pink stuff or this is from a different time. I like that I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it is maybe the most interesting relationship of the season. The two of them, and seeing Rand try and stand up, and seeing Rand like, actually, no, I take that back. Egwene and Ursula, that's the most interesting relationship of the season. But aside from that, a solid second is Lanfear and Rand, because we also get those small moments of vulnerability from Lanfear that even could be manipulation, because we know Rand is watching her too. But like she'll give that like slight flinch where like she's hurt that Rand's caring about another woman.
God, yeah, I was like, watch it, Rand.
Like, I don't know if she's playing him or not. It's different enough from the books that I can't call it, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
Why are the lights in the back? getting brighter and darker. I'm so sorry. That's been distracting me. No, for me. Brighter and darker.
I don't know, man.
I'm so sorry, chat, if that was bothersome.
It seems okay. It's not distracting to me. So we've got some characters that had a lot of screen time that I don't believe we've said their names one single time, and that's Alana and her warders. How did you feel about them this season?
I love their characters. I don't know if I love what they're being involved with plotline wise, because I'll just say they're closer to peeing on a tree land than I care for characters to be. So like I'm excited to see what they're gonna do, but like they haven't been utilized well enough. I totally buy their relationship. I like their internal communication. Mm-hmm. They are probably the best embodiment we're getting of how a warder and Aes Sedai, especially if the Green Aja should behave. They just seem like they have that like immediate line with each other.
Yeah.
But they haven't done enough for me to feel like I have a strong opinion one way or the other. I was really glad when they weren't killed, because I feel like it would have been a mistake to kill them before they're able to really do much more. Because I hope they're tied into the we're doing full book spoilers, right? Yeah.
Tower Schism. Yeah. Full book spoilers.
That we're seeing in the future, because they are in a really good position to be at the heart of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I really, really love Alana as a character. I would have probably chosen to cut some of their screen time with Lan peeing on a tree in favor of some of our other characters. But Alana, it's like, she's such a badass, and I like her a lot, and knowing what she does in the books, it has me just curious. Like, do you see this Alana ending up bonding Rand against his will?
Yes.
Okay.
I do think this is a version of that character we can see do it, especially if they do end up killing Moraine. If they get Moraine out of the picture, I feel like this version of Alana, who is assuming Moraine's mission the best she can, could see that as her only viable option and could just do it. And I hope the show really presents it as a horrible decision and like a really vile thing to do to somebody. You are forcing yourself on them in a way, and that's awful. But it's also, again, Rand is someone who, if he's completely out of control, can be terrible. And it's also a decision from Lana where you're like, I kind of get it, because like if this inexperienced kid ends up in the wrong place under the wrong thumb, the world's over.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that thing where like I hope they're able to walk that emotional thematic nuance of like you get it, but also it's horrible.
Yeah, I guess reading in the books, usually my instinct is violation, not okay. But I think part of the reason I feel that way is because I don't fully know Alana very well. And so I'm just like, why is it you? Like, how are you the one who gets to bond Rand of all the people? In the show, I'm like, oh, I kind of get it, right? She's talking to Shiriam, for example, about the last battle coming and why we're getting all these super powerful channelers and all this other stuff. She's got the last battle in mind actually being super Green Aja vibes, right? And so the fact that she would choose to do that, it would be more like a terrible violation, but also, I think, in the show, more understandable. And like, I think there will be people defending her in the way that no one ever defends her for what she does in the books. Unless I've just missed that discourse. I don't know.
How are you feeling about the confirmation that we will be getting Elida?
So happy. Like, I'm thrilled. Granted, like, well, partially because Egwene is my favorite character in the books. Mm-hmm. So I need some Egwene Elida, like, you know, the dark one wouldn't want to be associated with you nonsense. Like, not nonsense. I need that from Egwene, and I want it desperately. I want Egwene to organize the novices in the assault on the tower by the Shan-Chan as a novice, when really she's the Amyrlin, and then for the Aes Sedai to come. Like, I feel like we need Elida for a lot of that, because like who else? Like Leandrin, like several people know she's a dark friend now, so there wasn't like, how are we gonna replace? Anyways, yeah, so I'm good.
Powerful political people know Leandrin is a dark friend. That needs to come into place. She cannot just go back to the tower and be like, everything's fine. And
I agree.
The Varen investigation.
Yeah,
knowing Varen's a Black Aja member is so great. I kept looking at Kayla like, you got no idea. Kayla was like, I like this person. She really seems to be trying to figure this all out. And I'm like, for not reasons you
she's got a little book that she takes, that she's taking notes in.
She's gained powers in ways you don't understand.
Yeah.
And I don't want this to really be a thing. I don't think it's the right decision. And this is so inappropriate to say, but Elida is the perfect candidate to be a stand-in for like Marjorie Taylor Greene meets Lauren Boebert. And you just make that the character. And you just hate her so much. And she's so dumb and politically vile. And then you have Egwene say the line, I thought you were a dark friend, but then I realized you were too stupid for the shadow to use you. Just like everything about her still fits. They should not do that. That would be bad. I would also laugh a lot. That's all I'm saying.
Well, she's so like, Elida is just comically unhinged. Like, she is the weirdest non-dark. She's the evilest non-dark friend out there. Maybe.
Outside of the White Cloaks, yeah.
Outside of the White Cloaks, that's true. I was gonna say like because Eamon Valda, was he a dark friend in the books? Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Or
was he not?
I believe so. Or was he just that vile?
He might be that vile. Like Jachim, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Jachim Carradine, the head of the Inquisitors, right?
Take him pardon.
Thank you. He was dark friend. But now I'm not sure if Eamon Valda was.
I do want to put forward, if anyone in the chat, I'm not seeing chat still, but if anyone in chat is about to correct us and be like, this is how it's pronounced. Even Michael Kramer and Kay Redding do not pronounce it the same way as Robert Jordan. Leave us alone.
So true. Yeah, leave us alone. Also, the fact that we pronounce it wrong just means that probably for the first time when we read it, we were reading the book itself, right? Which, so, like, get off our backs.
Oh, no, I started with the audiobooks. I'm just stupid.
Well, to be fair, like, they did change pronunciations, so that's not...
Oh, yeah. And I don't think Valda was. I think he was just that bad of a guy.
Well, then...
There was another questioner or powerful person in the White Cloaks who was, I think.
Other than Jechum? Jacob? Because Jacob was. I know he was.
I just assume like half of the White Cloaks were really dark friends. It's
true.
It's like when you meet people who are like, oh, like, it's the White Cloaks are the verbal equivalent of like the Democratic Republic of North Korea. It's like, okay, you're the light, sure, like okay, you align with what you're claiming to be perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always assumed most of them were dark friends or dark. It wasn't until Galad came in there and was like, we're actually the Boy Scouts of America, that that it started being a place where actual good stuff was done.
Thank God for Galad also. And it looks like I did get a notification, but Pete in Toronto with a Canadian $5 says, let me establish the rules of this game, says Daniel Greene. And then I respond, wait, whose podcast is this? Yeah.
So sorry, I didn't mean to take more. I just also want to know your thoughts, because I remember talking in London and you were like one of the people where I was like, this, you know what you're talking about. Let's have a conversation.
No, I'm glad that you made those rules, because honestly, I feel like we got to talk about more characters because of the rules that you've established. Okay, so White Cloaks, bad, yes. Eamon Valda's on par with Elida as far as evil, non-dark friend, assuming he's not a dark friend. Oh yeah, people are saying, oh, we did get the notification. There it is, bam. Yeah, people are saying Valda was just vile, so...
Yeah. Okay, good. I was really afraid that I was going to get that wrong, because it's kind of weird to be like, I don't think Eamon Valda's a dark friend, but there's a lot of evidence to be like,
he's probably kind of a dark friend. Yeah.
He is a dark friend in the same way Fane is a dark friend, where it's like, you have the potential. You're not, at least in Fane's case, anymore. Fane was the weird kid in class that even the Shadow was like, I don't want to touch him. Like, just send him out of the room.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so what else was different? Oh, okay, so Lan and Moraine. We haven't fully gotten into that whole thing yet. Do you agree that the way they were behaving was slightly out of character?
I would call it antithetical to their
character. Okay, so same page.
There is not a, because I wouldn't have had a problem with it if it was consistent in the show. If we were shown in season 1 that these two still weren't vibing and had problems more than just the conflict they had around like a couple smaller things, but like these two were getting in a bathtub together. They share butt water, like they are close. And then they turn around and she's not able to like tell him stuff that it's like, hey, this is the guy who does know the mission you're on, and suddenly you're saying that he doesn't understand like the true level of sacrifice or something that needs to happen. I'm like, this, in the 20 years you guys haven't like gone over that, like it didn't work. I feel like the whole season was them regressing their relationship, just trying to get back to where they were, without really good justification for it. And anytime they're on screen together, I actually really love just about everything they're doing. It's when they're apart that I was like, they feel like they're kind of floating. And then Moraine's like stuff with her family was interesting. I just don't get why it's relevant to anything at all that else happened this season, or how it will be relevant next season. It just felt, and it was good, it was enjoyable, but it just felt like Rosamund Pike needs more screen time.
Yeah.
So here it is.
Yeah, I had a really good time with it. But you're kind of right that it's like, I don't know how it's going to tie in later, unless, you know, Anvir becomes a big wig in future something. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. But
that's the thing. I'm not saying lift it out, because I did enjoy all of it. It's just one of those things where I'm like, it felt like, oh, she's away from Lan, so let's develop her this storyline.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of Red and Black Dog super chatted 199 obligatory. We need 12 episodes per season. That's exactly what we're talking about. Like, if we're gonna have stuff like Anvir, which I really loved because the Barthanic, like her going against her own son, the drama, the tea, it was scalding. But at the same time, like, yeah, if we could have expanded Matt, that's probably what I would have chosen to do if given the choice. Or actually, what I would have chosen to do is have a couple more episodes. Personally.
And if those had gotten a couple more episodes, there could have been ways to develop that whole thing with her family into tying into Leandrin and consequences more. It just felt like the writer's room was constantly having to be like, well, we have to take this tiny bit out because we can't have the runtime for that.
Yeah.
And it's like going through a huge show right now, Fringe, which had like 20 some episodes per season, and I'm sitting here just jealous because they have like just filler episodes.
Yeah.
Where they're like, we don't really know what to do, so we're just gonna have like a character do nothing. And I'm like, just take that episode, remove it from that show, and put it in this one.
Yeah. Can you imagine a Wheel of Time musical episode?
I'm just trying to imagine a Wheel of Time with 22 episodes per season.
Oh my god!
How much that would be able to deliver. First of all, I'd make so much money reviewing.
Yeah, that would. Positives for everyone. Positives all around. Why do we not do that? Come on.
It's just a whole episode with Perrin and Hopper just having a good time. It's like happy music. They're just fully bonding. Like, you're my best friend. Just for Hopper to get murdered.
So it sounds like we're getting more Teleron Riode in episode or season 3. Do you think that's going to be more Hopper, Perrin, or Egwene and the Wise Ones, or both?
I think it's going to be all of it. It would be a mistake not to develop the World of Dreams a lot, because people talk about channeling, they talk about Wolf Brothers, but like the World of Dreams is just as important a magic system in itself. And it is tremendously important, especially to understand like the finer details of it for how certain huge conflicts are resolved down the road, like with how certain collars are put on people if some version of that is going to be brought in with that character. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things where it's like, how does that exactly happen? And with how the show has kind of been playing fast and loose with the rules, I'm a little nervous about it. But I still think they're on the right track, because even this season was pretty heavy with it. Far more heavy than I thought it would be.
Yeah, same.
I think that Forsaken had like equal screen time in and out of the dream world.
Yeah, and sometimes you weren't sure whether they were in the dream world, which was kind of fun, actually. Yeah.
And even though it's a cheap effect, I love that slight glitching when that happens when it's not as controlled a dream as like when they're in the Forsaken stream versus like Min being, I assume, pulled into Teleron Riode. Granted, we haven't gotten that distinction established very well, but it very easily could be explained more, in season 3.
Yeah, or even him dipping into her dream, right? Because then he would be less controlled. But it's him, so he's not going to be completely out of control. Yeah. So, okay, so let's see. Episode 8, the Horn, Uno. How did you feel about Uno's death? And then, like, if you can separate that in your mind, his return.
Uno's death didn't bother me that much, actually. I think Uno's death is, he's an important character in the books, but he's also someone who nearly everything he does can be folded into other characters who need more screen time and can just do what he's going to be doing in that time.
Yeah.
So if you're going to kill a character that doesn't die this early, sure. Like, why not pick him? Yeah. Bringing him back in the Horn? I was like... his sacrifice wasn't that.
Oh, I think he's Guidal Kane.
I know, but he's not presented as Guidal Kane. He is presented as just this. Like, that's the thing. Nothing about the Horn is communicated to the audience. Like, none of that. So if you are Kayla, yeah, I can understand why he's there. But if you're Kayla, you're like, wow, for just standing up to the Shan for a second, this guy's in the Horn. And I feel like,
Yeah.
hold up, let's explain the metaphysics of the Wheel of Time and reincarnation,
Right.
which the show hasn't really done. And so that's the issue I'm talking about, communication, where they are simultaneously really asking for you to have read the books and to be okay with them just delivering things where it's
Changing.
like, yeah, that rule that's in the book, breaking that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's kind of that 2 layers to it. I was also, apparently they haven't cast Brigitte, someone told me. I
Yeah,
was shocked
she was
they
a
didn't take
stand-in.
that. Yeah, give us the opportunity to be like, this person, they're going to be really important. Look at her. She's pretty. She likes ugly guys. And she's got a bow. She is a very, very modern interpretation of Legolas.
You know, yeah. Okay, so, like, hear me out. I'm secretly hoping for in the future seasons when Perrin is in the world of dreams, he encounters Uno, and he's like, how did you become how did you become a hero of the Horn? And then they explain it. Like, you didn't do anything. Like, you know what I mean? And then he's like, well, you know, he'd probably curse and say something like, you know, you bloody goat kisser, like, I'm Guidel Kane or whatever. And then it'll all be better. And then we'll have the explanation. But until then, yeah, I agree that certain things, the Horn especially this season was kind of it helped book readers. It helped to be a book reader a lot because I had non-book readers come on the Wheel and Chill show with their reactions, and a lot of the questions that they had were like what's the Horn? You know, I don't know what's going on with that. And it's fair because they did say it a couple times, like what it does, but it was not the focal point that it was in book 2.
Yeah.
So that was the big difference.
I will say though, like, I keep going back and forth on whether or not they should have cut the Horn in my head. Just because of the elation you get with Matt from it, like,
don't cut the Horn. What are you talking about?
No, I'm not saying like remove the Horn from the books. I'm saying for this show, did the Horn feel like a good element to be there? And like, again, 12 episodes. If they had had just a little more time, the Horn could have really been cemented, like its importance.
Yeah.
I do want to say, speaking of Horn of Valere, that Hunters of the Horde, Aiel, let's rewind a little bit back to Perrin. Did you think of his fridged wife once this season?
Only when he said her name and floated a lantern for her.
Aside from that,
yeah,
that one moment where it's like, I guess this is the last time we're going to think about you. Bye. I'm so mad at that. I'm so mad at the love triangle that now is just not going to be a thing, I imagine, ever again. Like, all of that from season 1 is aging worse in my head, where it was just like, why did you put this stuff there?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like, when I was reading the books, in book 1, there was a moment that I shipped Perrin and Egwene because of their Tinker arc, okay? So, like, they could have taken the seed and just kind of planted it, but it did definitely conflict with the fact that Perrin had a wife, I think.
Yeah, like, it just is strange. Like, there's a lot of emotional depth to having Perrin potentially cheating with his wife emotionally with Egwene. Like, there's so much baggage with that. Like, that is a huge element to introduce. And then it's like, bye to all of that. We're just not sailing away on that lantern.
No, he took his ring back. He's not totally over her. He has his ring still.
If they introduce Aiel, I feel like it'll be explained more, but the only way I'll be okay with it is if he explicitly says, I'm okay with it now because I love Hopper. That, I'll forgive it all.
I've moved on with a wolf. Thank you. Yeah, it's, you know, they did say that Hopper also had lost his mate, so the fact that they're like mourning together and getting over their respective lost mates makes sense.
I also, sorry, this is just total speculation. I feel like
sorry.
I'm talking way too much.
Not at all. You're the guest. You should be talking.
I can't wait for Tom to come back in. I feel like we have done such a good job evolving the boys, like growing up, giving them all this trauma. Like, I feel like we have the perfect scene set up for Tom to come back in and be like, what have you been up to? And Matt's gonna be like, you got no idea. Like, this is bad. All of it bad. Rand was dead, maybe. I'm still not clear on that.
Yeah, I need Matt to give Tom the recap, actually. I think that would be fabulous.
That should be the cold open for an episode in season 3, where like he just runs into him, gives him the rundown, and it's purely played for jokes.
You know what, cosign, absolutely. So we alluded to this, but we didn't get into it because we were not doing book spoilers, but Perrin is set up, in my opinion, spectacularly for the Two Rivers arc, right?
Yes.
Like, I don't know when Fael's going to come into play in the arc. According
Has
to
that
like
been confirmed? I have no
not
idea.
confirmed by the show. There's like leaks, but
I've been avoiding leaks like the plague.
yeah, I wish I could. I see some of them. But anyways, I believe that she's going to be in the show. And so the question is, she's a hunter for the Horn though, so she could be anywhere on the path that he takes to the Two Rivers. Assuming, like, I don't know what's gonna send him on that path though, right? Because he's got this feud with the White Cloaks. Dane knows that he's from the Two Rivers. In fact, he called him Two Rivers constantly. And then there's
really drove that.
Yeah, he knew.
It's foreshadowing if you haven't read the books to be like, I wonder how he's gonna strike at Perrin.
And then the books also have Fane enmeshed with the White Cloaks, which hasn't happened to my knowledge just yet. And so Perrin needs to get to the Two Rivers, and I believe he's going to, because they rebuilt the Two Rivers set. But then the question is, how does he get there? But then once he gets there, I'm so excited, because I think that's going to be so much fun to see Perrin really come into his own.
It's a good question, and if I had to guess, they're going to do a time skip at the start of season 3 to
Another
give us
one.
like, some time for Rand to be powering up, like things to move around. And early on, Perrin hears that, yeah, like he killed that dude's dad, and now he's in the Two Rivers because that's what he is trying to, find Perrin. And they can have a very similar motivation of like, okay, I'm just going to go back there.
That makes sense.
And in the book, he doesn't go there for Fael. Like people forget that he's looking for rumors to distract her, but then he hears of what's happening in the Two Rivers and goes, oh crap, and wants to go on his own. So for that reason, I think, yeah, he totally can go with or without Fael, and it may be in character. It makes sense.
Absolutely.
The only thing is this version of Matt they've built, I feel like would go with him. Whereas like book Matt, you understand he's kind of grown beyond it. This version of Matt, I don't feel that for him, though I'm sure I can be talked into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, we haven't yet gotten the door frames, right? The twisted door frames. And one of the twisted door frames sends Matt to Rhuidean. And Matt in Rhuidean is a fun ride, in my opinion. Like, he gets hung there, and we got, I think, foreshadowing for that. Like, I personally think the door frames are going to happen. Some people are like, oh, no way, it's over now. What do you think about that?
They've avoided some of the weirder Wheel of Time magic system stuff that's really hard to explain without having chapters to be like, okay, so these doorways access an alternate dimension that are not like the other dimensions you see in this thing. They're like these, it's hard to do that in the show. So I mean, they could do that in so many different ways that require less screen time and explanation. So I would think we'd get the simplified version, and I wouldn't even be mad at that change, because it's a lot to be like, so this board game Snakes and Foxes, that's a big one. Like, it's really hard to do that.
So what's the simplified version in your perfect world?
I mean, if you want to do someone who can be like Visions of the Future, Min could be like, you need to go to Rhuidean for whatever reason, and then it's like a conflict with him because he doesn't know if he should believe her, and she's like,
Good
that's
point.
the technical terminology.
Oh.
There's a lot of ways you could get there. He could even just run into an Aes Sedai as the foretelling, who does this whole spooky, I'm seeing stuff. And
what if it's Elida? What if he goes to Camelin and it's Elida, and then he fights? Sorry.
I will never, ever since I think it was either my dad or a friend of mine who made the comparison from Elida to Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's just, that is Elida in my head. And so every time you say that, just know that's
just a brunette Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, that's right. Elida's a brunette. I always pictured her as a blonde, though. Because I'm blonde, I'm crazy. She's crazy. Maybe that's the connection.
I think she's a brunette. I'm pretty sure.
I would actually say she's insane. On all the real rereads of the book, she just goes mad from power. She actually just goes crazy. By the end of it, she is batshit. And I love that. Like, I love a good crazy villain.
Yeah, no, she's good. Like, if the Wheel of Time show's track record with villains continues, like, is any indication of what it's going to be in the future, Elida is going to be so delectable. So is Taim, like, whenever that happens, because they've referred to him, right? So, like, whenever he shows up, that's going to be exciting. You know who we haven't really talked about? Loghain. Do you think? Look at us! Look at us! Look at us! Who would have thought? Loghain. He's different a little bit. How do you feel about this?
I love book Loghain. I'm not saying this is better or worse. I'm interested in this Loghain because he's meek yet manic. He's clearly cowed, but has potential. Like all of those really important elements of the character are still there. And so the eventual glory to Logain, this could fold towards, is all seeded well with this out, like with all those really core elements being there, everything around it, the presentation of the character is quite different for me, not just in the story, but like how I just pictured him.
Yeah.
But I like this version still because with those core parts in place, the very background power struggle he has with Taim can still absolutely happen, because that's one of the most interesting things about the founding of the Black Tower is just narratively in the backdrop, just behind Rand's shoulders, you're seeing this political struggle where Logain is like, hey, help, and Rand's like, figure it out, stupid.
Yeah.
I got dragon stuff going on. And so yeah, I want to see that. The Black Tower can't be cut. I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, but it needs to be there. It's fantastic. It's such a great way to exemplify the madness, which we haven't gotten much of yet. Aside from Logain when he was at his craziest in the cage. But I do think they have brought in the ebb and flow of the madness that is in the books into the show, which I've had some people tell me I'm wrong on. I think I'm right. People get more and less mad. Rand gets more and then less mad. It's like a high tide, low tide situation.
Absolutely.
And it's not drowning in it. And so, yeah, I think they are playing with that because it also is very useful plot wise to have people fluctuate like a muscle and just how mad they are.
It's like having a good day versus a bad day. I mean, it's like a mental health generally, people have their moments and they have their better moments basically. So that makes a lot of sense.
Just that these moments give you access to a nuclear bomb level of power. So good luck.
I do wonder if again, full book spoilers, if Nynaeve healing him will do something, like if part of the madness was just like a defeatism, and so he might get slightly more lucid or like, put together once he gets healed, if he gets healed.
The actor, what's his name?
Alvaro Morte.
Thank you. He has, like, you can see he's acting kind of meek and cowed now, but he has that potential to be the crowned Logain, to be that guy
totally
who still towers, which is going to be hard because Rand is apparently 8'9", at least how they shoot the show. Like I don't know how they're doing it, but Joseph Stradowski just always looks like everyone's hero on him.
I mean, he's really tall. Like he's okay.
So is Daniel Henney. And like even in the scenes
True.
of Daniel Henney, I don't know if they're Tom Cruising it or what.
Lifts. Or who is that? Is it DeSantis that people are saying? Yeah, he's got lifts. It's fine.
But and that is one of my favorite moments too, when Lan and Rand finally have a moment to like exchange what they're at. It's great because that genuine concern from Lan of Rand is just so pure, and it's coming from such a place of like, I know how bad this world is. You don't.
Yeah. You sit down. I do wonder if because they're in the same place and there may or may not be a time jump, like we can't just have Rand be completely somewhere else, I don't think, because there's like a lot of things that we need to work out. Like he's just met Elaine, for example, like Egwene now knows that he's alive. Like we need to kind of get a resolution there, I think, before there's like they just run off into the wild. So all that's to say, I'm hoping that because Lan is there, that we get book 2 opening with Rand and Lan training with the sword in season 3. That's what I'm hoping. Like at the beginning of season 3, Rand and Lan are, like a little Rocky montage kind of a situation. That's what I'm hoping for. We'll see.
Get demonetized. I'll stop there.
Oh, thank you. Please. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, something that's so simple from the books, the passing of Rand from Egwene to Elaine is easily handled because Elaine has been around Rand a little bit at that point, and there hasn't been like the exact setup that Egwene and Rand have had up in the show. In the show, Egwene and Rand's relationship has escalated to the point they're sleeping together. I mean, they have a very intense, it seems, committed relationship. And so it's suddenly going to get trickier because it's going to feel weird to have these people who are crying on a mountaintop together, the most dramatic setting, suddenly be like, yo, Elaine's really cute though. Like, Rand, date him because I'm actually into her brother who I haven't met yet. Like, I'm not sure how that's going to, because like the pieces are set in a way in the books that it very smoothly happens without too much thought. It feels right. Like you'd never buy Egwene and Rand lasting. Whereas here, if you're just watching the show, Egwene and Rand seem like a really serious couple. It's not that they were just happened to be the right age, the right, distance, grew up together in this village. they feel like they love each other.
Yeah. Like Rand said he would go to the tower with her at the end just before he went to the Eye of the World. And then, so yeah, part of me thinks that Egwene is going to break up with him for doing all that nonsense, basically. Like
how if Rand did it right now, it would basically come across as him seeing Elaine and being like, okay.
it's the meme, right? Where the guy's like, and the girl's like surely, yeah, you get it. You know what I'm talking about. It's the meme.
Or they could just do a 180 flip and Egwene's like, Rand, I'm leaving you for Elaine. And then Rafe's threat of just making everyone gay.
Yeah, we've been like, we're drinking buddies now. They literally, also the way they introduced Elaine to Egwene was via pillows. So we had foreshadowing from the very beginning for pillow friends, I think. So, you know, a lot's going on there. God, Elaine was so good also. Just like, we talked about her already. We don't really have to go into it, but like, I cannot wait to see just everything that she gets to do from here on out, because they seem to have telegraphed her as a main character, right? Because she was on the tower with everybody else, like, and she is one of the top 5 POV characters in the book, so like, that's happening.
Really?
I think so. Yeah.
I guess
she's got more than Nynaeve.
Yeah.
So, and Matt. I think Matt. I think more than Matt. Or maybe Perrin. It doesn't matter.
This just occurred to me. I really hope they give everyone a beat to be really pissed at Rand for pretending to be dead.
That's what I mean. I think Egwene might break up with him for that.
That would be a good way to go with it, but it also wouldn't feel as natural. Because like the books literally do it to the point where like no one's hurt, right?
Yeah.
So either Rand would get hurt by that, or like it just can't be as of like which it is strange how easy they pass him along.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm really curious to see how they're gonna pull. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying like they're either gonna use that motivation of like she's mad at him or just got over. Well, we know she's not over him because when he shows up in her dreams, she's like, "Oh my god." Well,
yeah.
Maybe that's just seeing I don't know. I'm very confused.
It's gonna be tricky. Part of me also thinks like she might break up with him because she does have ambitions, right? And in episode 1, she's cleaning the Amerlin's study and she looks longingly at the stole, right? She's ambitious. She's really interested in becoming an Aes Sedai, and we saw in the first season that like she was willing to give Rand up to be a wisdom. And so now I think that's just going to translate into her saying, well, Aes Sedai don't really marry. Also, you're the Dragon Reborn. So I don't know that this is really meant to be. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good way to take it. I like that approach of just, hey, my path is on another way.
Yeah.
And Rand could probably, and that would actually align with Rand in the book, who immediately assumes like, of course you don't want to be around the Dragon Reborn, because he can just have that response of like, of course you don't want to be around me.
I get it.
That does fit with him.
Yeah. And then Elaine's like, I don't care. I don't care you're the Dragon Reborn. It's
I would
fine.
think it'd be so funny if Rand's response is like, I get it, because Lanfear would probably kill you. Like, hey, actually, like, good move. I have a crazy ex-girlfriend now. Surprise.
Yeah.
How crazy. Oh, she's genocidal.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so speaking of Lanfear, do you think we're getting Moraine, Lanfear, showdown, hoedown, death scenario?
Oh, the NFL linebacker
linebacker tackle, right? Because Moraine has already surprised Lanfear with a non-magical attack once. You know. Will she do it again? Will it happen?
I think here's my prediction. I don't think anyone is super emotionally connected to the just dive tackle in a doorway. It's like a weird, like you believe it in the moment, but in hindsight, it's like that just like doesn't. It's strange. That
That's how it happens.
Bot eater. Like, So like it's fine to take that another way. I don't think we'll necessarily get that. I actually have chat pulled open now. Someone's saying they already broke up in season 1. That breakup didn't provide like emotional catharsis for the relationship. It was very much so like we're mad. It wasn't like we're done. So
they reunited before Rand left for the Eye. Like he literally said he was going to be her warder at the tower. Did he not? Am I misremembering?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, anyway, I shouldn't listen to chat. My bad.
No, you're fine.
Kritter said it first. Your chat's stupid. I know.
I never said that.
I'm totally.
Don't quote me. Misquote me.
Before the cameras were on right now.
Right. No, I didn't. Don't believe it.
I'm joking. All right. Sorry. But no, I don't think it's going to be a dive tackle in a doorway, because I don't think we're gonna get the doorways.
Okay.
I think Rosamund Pike is also not officially signed on for all the seasons, and so it could be a permadeath, because also Moraine at the end can be written out. I'm not saying it could. It is a great, amazing moment when she returns. I love it so much. And they could kill her in a way where she could come. I predict they will kill her in a way where she could come back if they decide to bring her back for wherever they end up in the last season, or they'll kill her off in a way where it's like, all right. But no, I just think it's gonna be ambiguous. I think it's gonna leave both paths open to them.
Okay. I want the doors, and therefore I am manifesting them and believe that the Finn are going to be in the show, and that's going to happen. I think that if she does go away, it will not be for as long, because Rosamund Pike will decide that she loves the Wheel of Time dearly and does not want to leave forever, and then we'll get her back.
Totally on board. I also want to make it clear, I'm saying what I think they will do.
No, I know.
What I want them to do is fully bring in the Aelfin and Eelfin. I want a whole episode of just foxes and stuff going. I think it would be fantastic. The weird and the horrific of Wheel of Time are what I love the most, so bring in all that weird. I'm totally down. I just don't think practically they will.
I get it. I am the confluence of optimism and predictions. Like, basically all of my predictions are like, what do I want? But I do couch them with, is this realistic? And in my brain, they could tone it down slightly while still doing it. But we'll see.
They'll just have a fortune teller who's wearing like snakeskin boots and like a fox scarf.
Or just like, Voldemort the nose, and then that's the snakes, and then put a little headset on them just like this, and those are the foxes, and then we move on. Like,
perfection. Also,
I feel like the costuming department has proven that they can do anything.
Yes. Oh, the white cloak outfits are so spectacular.
Yeah.
Everyone's were. The costuming across I didn't know you could make Aiel actually look good in live action. They nailed it.
Really? You were worried about the costumes? Oh, the veiling?
I thought the black veil would be kind of goofy or like not look as good, because like if you look at the graphic novel, it's just like a string that like, it's strange how Jordan had them do it in the graphic novel.
Yeah.
I think they were true to what's in the books, but took the perfect amount of creative liberties to make it still like work contextually in the world.
That makes sense. I guess I never had a problem with the Shufa because, one, like, I've snowboarded in my life, and two, I've hunted, and the like, you have face coverings for that, and so like doing this motion completely natural to me. So I was like, yeah, they would do that. Like, that makes sense. I don't know.
No, I completely agree. Like a Shufa can look amazing.
Yeah.
I just specifically if you've read the I think it's the New Spring graphic novel.
It looks bizarre.
It's really bizarre how it looks, and I was afraid someone would be like, we need to stay 100% accurate, and be like, these were Jordan's looks, and I'd be like, okay. He also said the Seanchan sounded like Texans, so not everything should come across perfectly.
Oh, how amazing was it that they did at least sound like Americans? I was just like, that makes sense. Like, thematically, it's appropriate. I think. Oh my gosh, there was another.
I want to see the Indiana Jones scene again, but the Seanchan Blade Master comes out with like cowboy boots, like rattling, like, all right, partner.
Howdy. Oh God. Okay, so yeah, we did talk about the Indiana Jones thing. I did watch your episode 8 review, so but like, were you sad that it was Indiana Jones versus Sword, or did you like it?
No, as I said, I actually disagree with Sanderson, just because I've done some sword play, which I'm sure he's done too, and it's like boxing. You would need years and years and years of training to fight someone who has spent years and years and years training. Yes, you can do the Talviren thing in the book, but Talviren has not had the time, because we need more episodes to be as fleshed out in the show. So I feel like for people who haven't read the book, it'd have been like, how the hell is he doing that? So for me, I thought it actually was just like, oh, okay, we really are pressed for screen time. So that actually was a great time saver. Wonderfully done. My only actual problem with the scene was how the Seanchan servant killed themselves. Like everything, the shooting was great, But then this horrific thing happens where Rand, who should still be coming across as fairly innocent at this point, watches someone self-mutilate and die, and he like looks at it, but it's not shot in any way where I really got the emotional weight, because in the book there's servants killing themselves all over the place, and Rand is like, did I do that? Like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
And so like I wish that, like, 'cause I love my horror and trauma, like
No,
Wheel
I
of
get
Time
it.
I always say is secretly very R-rated. I wanted to see that more emotionally impactfully, because like the way it was, like it even felt 80 yard when the Shan Chen servant was like, I gotta do this.
Here we go. Yeah, I guess whenever that happened in the show, because I was expecting some kind of sword fight, right? Because like we saw promos and stuff with like Turok, and then we're like, oh shit, here comes the sword fight, and then the way that it went down, the moment it happened, first of all, absolute delight on my part, because I haven't seen the Indiana Jones thing, so I didn't have any. That was the first time I had seen something happen like that on screen, and so
really, you've
yeah,
never seen Indiana Jones?
no.
Wow.
I know. I'm like trying to like get back and watch like older stuff. Like I didn't see Alien and Aliens until like law school. So like after law school. So I'm catching up. I know. And now they're like some of my favorite, but I think it's because as a kid, like I didn't watch adult. I didn't watch things made for grown-ups. And so for the most part, so I could tell you, like I could sing all the Disney songs like you wouldn't believe. But
Okay.
I didn't watch Indiana Jones because there was scary stuff in it, I guess. But whatever. So I hadn't seen it, so that made me really happy. And then afterwards, after the episode, when I was thinking about that moment, I was like, why didn't he channel and just murder him in the books? Like, that feels so much more efficient.
And that's actually why I think the change is justified for the show, because in the books, Rand is far more afraid of his power. Like, he is terrified, which we haven't gotten as much in the show. So yeah, it still even works on that level where Rand hasn't really been super afraid. Like when Logain is like, embrace it, Rand has this like Dash and Incredibles figuring out how fast he can be moment. He's like, it's awesome. Like, oh, there's so much of it.
Yeah.
He ends up throwing up, but it's not the level of like Rand in the book understands, oh, I could like genuinely become like the worst thing. So I need to be so careful. That's emphasized again and again and again and again and again. 30 more times me saying again, because Robert Jordan really liked to hammer that home. So yeah, I think it works. Do you know the story behind why that scene is that way in Indiana Jones, though?
I heard it was like, wasn't Harrison Ford sick or something that day?
Yeah, and so it just became one of the most iconic fight scenes ever because it had, like, the bad poos. And I enjoy that, and it clearly influenced this scene. So Harrison Ford's bad poos have influenced the Wheel of Time is something we can factually say.
Harrison Ford is Taviran in some ways. Okay, so before I forget to ask you about this, because we haven't really talked about Swan. How did you feel about her when she came onto the scene, which was late in the season, which is similar to season 1, and then the dynamic with Rand, and the fact that she seems just simply different than she was in the books, in the sense that she wanted to cage him, much like Elida wants to do later.
Yeah, again, it works for the show. I praised it in my reviews. It's one of the things where it's like, at first I was like, why? This totally changes, but with how her relationship set up with Moraine, like the lack of, it works in what they've built. So it's one of the things that I struggled with, and now I quite like.
Yeah.
And the performance behind Swan is immaculate. Like there's no notes would be my notes. Like you are Swan, fantastically done. I also really like the interaction she does have with Rand, where at first I was like, why are these changes here? But the detail of Rand like cockily embracing the swords and be like, you don't know who you're dealing with, and she's like, let's actually have a moment where you understand what experience is. Yeah. And then that also helps build up with how powerful Lanfear is, because again, like how she treated Rand, not Lan, is the same as how Lanfear treats her. So it is doing good for power dynamics. I am afraid with like the schism in the tower, how that's going to play, because now Swan's going to say like, well, I did try and stop him. And I guess the schism will happen because people are mad she didn't succeed. But why would the schism happen when she can go, yeah, Lanfear was there. Of course I didn't succeed. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be about her knowing this whole time. It changes the dynamics of the schism, and I'm really curious to see how that happens.
It definitely does. Like the collusion with Moraine was enough in the books, so like I always thought that obviously like the schism in the tower, the what's it called? Whenever they take down an Amerlin.
Deposed.
Thank you. When I did a whole trial at JordanCon about this, and the word that just left. Whenever they deposed Swan, it was like barely technically legal, even though several of them were Black Aja members, so not legal in my opinion. But it was like, because like usually you have to depose an Amerlin with like insane cause, and then they were like, well, she was sneaking around with Moraine about the dragon. That's enough. When literally, how does an Amerlin not have her own secrets? Like, that just feels like not enough. I don't know.
It wasn't just the lying for 20 years in the books, which, you know, that is a part of it, but it was more that, like, she fully let Rand go in the world, where we now know she didn't fully let Rand go in the world. She literally stood up a Forsaken to try and stop it. It's that, like, it's like the difference between, like, yes, the United States government did some sketchy stuff in the 80s versus, like, oh, they were like, okay, where am I going with this metaphor? I'll save it. I'm going to reel it back in.
You got this.
It's like, okay, it's like, here it is. It's like learning the difference between, like, you know what? I don't got it. I'm so confident, but I got nothing. I just wanted to make the U.S. government did really bad stuff a lot in history.
but the fact that it happened back in the 80s is less relevant to something they did more recently.
I guess you can make it all that she kept it a secret, but with the Black Aja coming out early, she could easily say, like, well, obviously I was right, because we're learning about Black Aja sisters, like, that are irrefutably here, because Liandrin had a high power ranking, like, noble witness her. So they can do it. It's just, it can't be the same really solid justification that's in the books.
Yeah, I agree. So that'll be interesting, because whenever you think about it, assuming, because they said that season 3 is going to be the closest to the book so far, and it's going to track the Shadow Rising, right? So, like, whenever I was doing at like WotCon or JordanCon a season 3 prediction panel, we went through all of the main arcs that happened in the Shadow Rising, and it's a lot. Like, the tower situation, the Amerlin seat getting deposed, that happens. Perrin in the Two Rivers, the battle of the Two Rivers, that happens. Rand and Rhuidean, that happens. Like, Egwene with the Wise Ones, that happens too. And the Wonder Girls in Tanchico, right? That also happens. And so 8 episodes, man. I have no idea how they're gonna fit all that in. Because he's also, Rafe said, I think at New York Comic Con this past week, that Tanchico is happening. And Rand and Perrin are going to have, like, focus moments. You know, they're going to have some focus, which implies Two Rivers and Rhuidean. Like, I don't know how they're going to do it, personally. It's going to be wild.
I really hope that we don't get a hand-waving of, like... Because it's all dependent. Everything you said to me is dependent, strangely, on how the Black Aja is handled. Because there's a lot of setup for them to come into play. And I think you can actually... If you do that book's perspective from, like, a more heavily shadow-based perspective, I think you can do a lot of those plot lines very condensed. Yeah. It's a matter of if we are, because we do get scenes just following Liandrin, Lanfear, which, you know, we do get in the books as well, following people who are evil, but I don't think percentage-wise as much. I would like to see a lot of that stuff, because, like, the like hiding who Lanfear is in the waste, it kind of works in the first read of that book, but on any reread you're like, oh, I wonder who that is. It's like, it's pretty obvious. I don't think it can be. So I want to see book 4 more heavily from the Shadows perspective. I think it'll really help condense a lot of those plot lines, and then you can have Perrin be like the totally good POV going throughout the season, because he's the one where, like, there's not really Dark Friends that play around. Well, oh god, do you bring in Lord Luke?
I was gonna say, you got Lord Luke, you've got Padden Fane literally murdering all of Perrin's family, but I assume Perrin doesn't have a family already, because his wife got fridged, but I don't actually know.
God, yeah, like, what are we gonna do when Perrin, what's gonna make Perrin break that mug where he's crying?
We need Perrin to cry!
I want Perrin's tears. But I think that, and Fane, I always have to remember, in the show, he's just a Dark Friend. In the books, he's something else. So, like, that's a shift for sure. I don't know. I'm really curious for it. I think it definitely has the potential to be the best season yet.
Oh, and, yeah. I think so, too.
Oh, God, I just want to see Rand. I want to see Mad Rand really start coming into play. Because I think that'll be, not just for my own selfish reasons. If you want to attract a wider audience, start showing us an insane chosen one. That is a great selling point for the show.
Yeah.
Rand going mad and it aligns with a lot of what happens in that book. He can start being a little more crazy than he is in the book and still do what he needs to do. I really want to see that.
Yeah. Okay, so for season 3, if you had to predict the Age of Legends cold open, presumably in episode 8, because we got episode 8 season 1, episode 8 season 2. I don't know that we're gonna get Dragon Mount, but like Winter Dragon vibes. What would you pull from the Age of Legends to kind of coincide with what's happening in book 4?
That's a good. Well, personally, I want it to be more lore heavy. So if we could see from Lanfear's perspective the drilling of the boar, I think that would be fantastic, and not only continue a great character arc for Lanfear that we're kind of getting revealed to us in season 2, but also give us that kind of extra like look at what the Dark One actually is, because if you're just watching the show right now, some people are probably still confused. It might be Forest. Like it's, you might not know.
Yeah.
Whereas, you need to understand it's not even something arguably of this universe. It's some kind of unknown natural entity that's beyond, comprehension or, of like a normal man if you're within the pattern.
Right.
So I want to see that commitment to just how special Robert Jordan's Dark One is, because it's not Sauron. It's not something that's straightforward. It calls Rand adversary. Like, that's so particular.
So badass, right?
It's badass that it's so peculiar. It's like, you are adverse. You're not even loose. Like, 'cause there's the whole play with his name, right, where he's Lews Therin, then he's Randall Thor. The Dark One doesn't see him as Lews Therin like the Forsaken does. He's seeing from a whole nother abstract.
Or the dragon, even.
Yeah,
He's
you're just
adversary.
You're the guy who keeps showing up and pissing me off. that's what the Dark One sees him as.
Yeah. I think that's actually excellent. A great pick, Lanfear and the Boar, because I'm doing a reread right now, and in the columns, if I'm remembering right, one of Rand's POVs, I think, is like from back then, and they're talking about that and how it happened, and like, oh yeah, they're about to do this thing or whatever. Maybe they already did this thing, and then things got crazy. So like, from Rand's ancestors' perspective, we hear about it. So that could be a really good parallel to Cold Open that they do.
Yeah. And I think you could. My only complaint with the look into the Age of Legends we've been getting so far is I want more of it, because I feel like out of context, it's tricky to really pick up on everything there.
Yeah.
So I want those like looks into Rand's past. I would like a full, like almost Nynaeve's accepted test. I want a full Rand episode where we're getting those really nuanced looks at what the drilling of the boar was, the ramifications, even stuff in looking into the Trolloc Wars. That would be so much fun, because
cool.
I know we got, the singing of the song in season 1, but we didn't really get the look at what happened for Manetheren and everything that I think we deserve.
Yeah. I mean, I know I deserve it. I would love that. That would be really, really nice. So I said 2 hours, so we're coming up towards the end of our stream. So I guess, like, do you have anything that we haven't talked about yet about season 2 or season 3 or things you predict will happen going forward, or anything like that we haven't really talked about yet?
The thing for me that I still want to talk about is what exactly the Aiel culture will be depicted like, and the shots that we can hopefully get, because we've gotten our badass Aiel fighting like Captain America, like, rah, we're just that great. But what I want to see is like one of the, I don't know if you've ever seen that really famous Napoleon movie where they have that incredible shot of the battle of like soldiers moving around. I want to see that level of like overhead sweeping shot of just Aiel like just swarming people, like just showing how they fight, how crazy coordinated they are. Because we also haven't really gotten a look at the Aiel War, and if we could get like some Aiel War like soldiers just being like, we're in our nice little uniforms and we're marching and we're gonna, oh my god, like, that wasn't a rock, it was a dude. Like, I want so much of that brought to the screen. So I hope they manage to squeeze in some Aiel War, some actual careful handling of the Aiel culture, because it's one of Robert Jordan's most beautiful in terms of all of its fantastic influences. So that is one where I give us 12 episodes and make 3 of them just Aiel hanging around in sweat tents.
Please.
Not because everyone's hot, but it's a cool cultural detail.
Drinking Oozquai, playing Maiden's Kiss, having Matt knock things out of the sky, like all of it.
It's going to be such a weird filming day when they have to do the film Maiden's Kiss scene, because you know they got to keep that. And they're going to be like, hey, man, so I hope everyone brought mouthwash.
Oh, God, yeah. I am so looking forward to the Aiel. Like, not only because that's one of, I think, Egwene's, like, biggest growth moments, or, like, her spending time with the Wise Ones and whatnot, but setting Egwene aside generally, that culture is, like, it's my favorite culture in the Wheel of Time, one of my favorite cultures in literature, and it's just, it's so different, and, like, I don't want to say alien, but, like, they have so many rules, and one of my favorite things about the Wheel of Time on rereads, but even I feel like on my initial read, was like piecing together the culture one step at a time, as like Aviendha is scolding Rand for messing things up. And you know what I mean? Like there's so much that you learn that you're just like, I feel like I could maybe like hold my own and in G-Ito a little bit, you know, now, because I've learned so much about it. And they kind of started that with Aviendha and Perrin in season 2. Like she was explaining G-Ito to him, kind of.
One of my favorite like middle fingers from Robert Jordan to the reader is about Aiel culture, and it's like everyone in their mother, I assume as soon as the books are coming out, we're like, Aiel culture's the best, I want to be an Aiel, and Robert Jordan definitely got sick of that, and so he writes those Aiel fanboys who are just people like mimicking the Aiel, and he's like, all of them suck, they're terrible, they're the worst, and that's what you are. And I love that he did that, and it's so clearly like, all you people who think you're Aiel, like, I can do G-Ito, right there.
Wow. So that I feel very called out right now. I'm a wetlander over here thinking I could do G-Ito.
The thing, like Aiel, it's like their culture is like I can't run a mile like good. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm not.
Yeah.
Their culture is it's the sun's not up. I'm gonna run 5 miles in the desert and there's like 30 snakes on the way, but that's just what I do on a Tuesday, and I love that about them.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me all the Aiel. Give me Couladin. Make him frothing at the mouth with rage. Give me that just total lunatic vibe for sure. Can't wait for it. What about you? What's your like? We haven't talked about big one for the next season.
For the next
aside
season.
From the Aiel culture.
Oh, and we already talked about the Tower Coup, and I said I was really looking forward to Perrin's arc. Like there's mainly those things. Tanjiko is something that I'm like. I would be okay with it being slightly back burner-ish, but it's also like it's got some really cool moments, right? So the Nynaeve Moghedian conflict, didn't that happen in Tanjiko? Like the face-off, the like staring at each other silently in a room.
Tanjiko or Abu Dar? I think it was. Now you're putting Tanjiko in my head, so I want to go there.
Okay, but like it's the show, so they can conflate a lot of things that happen, right? And so like presumably, because I feel like there are a couple of Wonder Girl arcs that are like similar, where they go to a new city and they're looking for the Black Aja, or they're looking for the Bowl of the Winds, or they're looking for the Black Aja, and so like we might not get all of those, right? Especially because we're only going to get 8 seasons. So like some of the coolest stuff from the Wonder Girls Out in the Wild scenario might all happen in that season. And if that's the case, then like if we get more Moghedian, and also I guess like this isn't a particular arc, but generally the new Forsaken has me hyped, right? So we've got Moghedian maybe gonna have some Nynaeve time. We've got maybe like presumably Asmodean in the desert, right? Like that's possible, and that could be cool. Jason Natale making an appearance. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how they introduce. We've already seen Moghedian, but how they introduce the others. Like if they're gonna have a big, introduction, each of them respectively.
And I really like the characterization for the Grendel at the end. It's different, but it's for sure
Moghedian, right?
Moghedian, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's okay. It's like Grendel. Did I miss? Was there a post-credit scene?
Sorry, Moghedian. Because it's very different than how I picture in my head, but the biggest thing is it needs to feel different than Lanfear and Faris. And I keep calling this actor's name because I like respect the guy so much. And I respect Natasha O'Keeffe too, but it felt very different, so I like that. And I want to see more Forsaken. I don't think they're going to bring Asmodean in, like because they've already brought Lanfear in so close. It'd be really weird to have Asmodean So I think I'm with you there. Or do you?
I think we'll get him. I think we're gonna get because
Oh, I think we'll get him. I just don't think he's gonna have the same type of setup where he's gonna be like sitting there strumming the harp next to Rand, like, "Hi, buddy."
What's your next move, man? I'm not asking for any particular reason. I'm just curious. Like, I'm not a spy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole setup for the Forsaken in the next season is going to be very different. Because I think it'd be a mistake to relegate Lanfear to being another actress, is what they'd have to do. And I think it'd be a mistake to introduce Osmodian that way. So it's a very different Forsaken. I don't know. Yeah. How do you feel about the... Sorry, I can keep going if you want to. I realize we're out of time.
Okay. I don't have any plans. Okay. I just didn't want to disrespect your time.
No, you're fine. How are you feeling about the return of the Shan-Chan? Because it's not going to happen yet, but they're going to come back. We're going to get Ebu Dar.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was... Yeah, because Ebu Dar's later in the series, so it's definitely Tenchiko that the thing happens with Nynaeve and Mogideon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
Yeah, because we don't get Ebu Dar till book 5, 6, something like that. I read a lot of fantasy series. Leave me alone.
No, it's okay. I literally just finished Fires of Heaven, and I'm over here like, I don't know. No, Fires of Heaven, they make it to... No, is the circus plot. Is Fires of Heaven.
God. Talk about something that definitely can be removed.
What? I love this.
No circus plot.
Did you...
I have recounted the story of Wheel of Time from beginning to end for Kayla twice. I have not mentioned the circus once.
Okay, so now I understand why you're okay with Uno having died.
Yeah, because it's the most useless time. I hate it. It's so bad.
That's when we meet Massima for the first time again.
Like, and we can meet them
the
some
Prophet.
other way.
Okay, fine.
I do want the Prophet because they're handling the White Cloaks well, so I can only imagine they're going to handle the Prophet well too.
Well, they kind of zoomed in on him looking up at Rand in awe, so I feel like that's been foreshadowed.
Wait, did we get confirmed that one of them is Massima?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's the guy with the arms. The, like, absolutely shredded arms. Somebody in the chat remind me of his name, because I'm absolutely spacing. I follow him on Instagram.
All spoilers, all, like, Twitter stuff. So, like, that's why I had to, like, dig to figure out why didn't they put Brigitte in the Horn? And then someone was like, they're not cast. And I was like, what?
Yeah, no, we've had Massima since last season. Arnis Federovicius. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. Yes, he's one of the people traveling with them. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought you meant he was one of like the background people in the crowd, and I was like, wait,
no,
what?
he was he's been with him the whole time, and him and his arms. He was the one that like didn't have a shirt on, and then like came outside like dressed. You know what I mean? Like hyper fast changing on his part.
Yeah, it's the thing I've gotten the most pushback on, but I had so many problems with like background extras in episode 8 that like it drove me wild because there's this massive fire breathing dragon in the middle of a battle that they don't know is over, and there's just people like. Yeah, and I'm like, why are you cheering this thing? First of all, you don't think the dragon's probably the best thing in the world.
I was going to say, maybe they all know about the prophecies. They're all very well read.
Yeah,
and
their house is on fire and their friends have died.
Yeah,
These people are like, this is a nice, like, fireworks are happening. It's really cool. Like, that bothered me. I shouldn't, but I don't know. I was just something that I was watching for, like, the episode for the third time, and I was like, someone should have made them do a different facial expression in this moment.
I saw you talk about the background people in your episode 8 review, and I literally would have never ever noticed that. So like I think it's partially the difference between me and you is like you look at it with like I'm reviewing like, you know, let's really take this in for like the quality and the detail, and I'm like just vibes. Like I am just having the best time, and so like background actors couldn't be me. Like I don't care. You know what I mean? So I think it's pretty hilarious the way we look at things differently.
Yeah, and so one of my favorite like details I think they're really getting right in the line of like the actual core of like themes within the Wheel of Time in the books that is so powerfully played is the failings of the Shadow. Throughout the entire books, the failings of the Shadow are they can't trust each other. They can't actually build up momentum, and they're most effective when they're on their own. The reason Shamael is able to cause so much chaos when he's the only Forsaken out there is he doesn't have to watch his back, and he's able to essentially like screw over Ardor Hawkwing. He's doing this crazy level of manipulation that I didn't even catch on my first read of the series. Like it takes rereads to pick up on like, oh, all these things are actually just one Forsaken being free. Once his friends are in play, he is worse off. That is bad for him, because you can't have servants of the shadow that like unify. It's the bane of their existence. And so far that has been the flaw of the shadow in the show, is like we're seeing people on their own can scheme and do stuff, but Lanfear is terrified when she realizes her supposed allies are free, because she's like, oh no, like I'm not in total charge anymore. And that's important. And it was one of the things that I didn't think for sure they'd get, but it's really coming through well. And it gives me a lot of hope for like the final showdown with Rand and the Dark One, because we're going full book spoilers, full warning people. It's like, spoilers. It's a philosophical battle. They're sitting down and they're just arguing over like what. It's an extension of Moradin's philosophy, because the Dark One's like, I'll end it all. I'll do what Moradin wanted. And Rand's like, that's a bad deal. Well, okay, if I leave, there's no free will. And it's this play. And so, like, you know, at the core of what makes the 5 Emmons Fielders win is they have each other. They're willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for each other. They're selfless. But society isn't entirely one way or the other. Robert Jordan, he viewed humanity as so flawed. That's the entire reason Shudder Logoth is there. It's like, we'll create our own shadow. Like, if the shadow isn't there, like, we will make our own issues. Yeah. And so the ending of the Wheel of Time is essentially Rand and the Dark One having a debate where it's like, okay, well, here's humans without free will. That's not good. Here's all bad. That's bad. Here's not existence. And the ending message is Robert Jordan go, humans suck, but we're pretty all right. And roll credits.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason. I know a lot of people disliked episode 8 of season 1, right? Like, I remember talking to you about it after the fact. And, like, I think it was you and Rhythma, and you were both like, God, I did not like that. And I was like, what? because I saw, like, Rand's arc especially, like, the fake out deaths got it to be a bit much. So, like, Nynaeve almost dying was, like, not my favorite. But Rand and Ishii and, like, the existential battle that they were having, to me, was like, oh my gosh, this is going to make such a fun, like, callback, or, like, it's going to be fun to call back to if we get to the last battle, right? Because it's, like, another fight between Rand and a force of the dark. He thought Ishii was the Dark One, but he wasn't. About, like, you know, the meaning of life and free will and choice and all this other stuff. So, yeah, that's part of the reason I think I liked episode 8 more than a lot of people, because I was like, this is gonna be great. It's gonna tie in. It's gonna be a wheel.
Yeah, and I wish I liked episode more, because I wish it succeeded more on a technical level. A lot of its issues are just how it's presenting stuff that it couldn't, because they had to like rush shoot it because of COVID. Yeah. But yeah, as long as they keep hitting those big thematic notes. I mean, I get stuff wrong about the details of the series. I'm reading the Cosmere right now. I can't keep all this stuff straight in my head. Yeah. But I know when you get the themes right. I know when you land like, okay, that is that character's motive. Like, it's that feeling of comfort where I think that's part of the reason I still liked, even despite how different the actual like moments of Matt's plot line are, because at the end of the day, like, it still is that same development of his character where he is someone who fails. He feels like his friends have judged him. He is insecure in a way that, you know, the other people in his party aren't, but he does overcome that temptation. And that's why I like, he does overcome the temptation of the dagger, despite my issues with him kerchiefing it to a stick. He does overcome it before he then gets the affirmation from the Horn of like, you are a hero. It comes in the right order and it brings those emotions out. That's like the beauty of the highs of the show, because it makes you feel that same moment from the book where you fall in love with Matt and then you see him totally embody that insecurity. I think is in all of us. All of us are afraid we're not a hero. All of us are afraid that we would crumble. We wouldn't be the person who's able to stand up. And yeah, you get to that through him, that like, maybe I can. I remember so many times when I was a young little kid, after I would always listen to the Wheel of Time in headphones when my brother was playing basketball at his little league games, and I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, I'd like listen to these great moments from Matt, and I'd be like, maybe I can play basketball. If he can do it, I can. And then I signed up for the team, and I was really good on defense, terrible on offense.
Scrappy. I was kind of the same way. I was very, very scrappy in basketball. I didn't know you had a brother. Actually, we're learning things. I
had a brother, and I have 2 sisters. My mom married her wife when I was 16, so I always forget that I have 2 sisters, because I for 16 years just had a brother, but now I just got 2 sisters that are my age, and so it's fun. Oh yeah, and my family's double the size.
That's very I was gonna say Addams Family. It's very Brady Bunch. Not Addams Family, not at all. Okay, gosh, there was. Oh, I was gonna say something and I've totally spaced on it. What were we talking about before you had a brother?
Sorry, I'm so rambly.
No, that was my fault. I interjected and now I'm like dying here. Oh, do you think Nynaeve's gonna break her block next season? Because they're setting it up. They really are. Like, the block was heavily emphasized in that final episode.
And it's something that you have to have a lot of patience for in the books. I don't know if mass audiences will have patience for it for season after season after season. It could be a good idea to bump it up to be a season 3 thing. Because it's book, is it 6 or 7 that she breaks it? I
want to say 7.
It's 7. Yeah, because it's after the chest.
Okay, well then, yeah, that would be 7.
Yeah, that's got to be 7 then, I think. I don't know. Someone in the comments will politely correct me.
Yes.
But, so the setup for her breaking her block is she is on a mission that she is not succeeding in this moment. But one of the Forsaken just blasts her on a boat just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And she has to completely give in. She has to just give up, which is something that's very out of character for Nynaeve. I've seen people misread that situation as her finally feeling fear. That's not what's going on. Nynaeve's been afraid left and right, up and down. Like,
yeah, she's just hiding it.
Yeah, she's just hiding it. It's her giving up. And I like it for the book Nynaeve. I don't think that's what show Nynaeve needs. I think they need to set up a different breaking of the block, because we haven't gotten the scenes from the book where Nynaeve is just like persevering through sheer force of will as much. We get it in season 1 with the Trolloc a bit, but like season 2 in the climax, she's just staring at a wounded knee and is like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be something else that pushes her over breaking the block. And I would like it to be that protective instinct. Because they've set that up so well for her in the show, that she is very protective, and she feels like she fails Elaine or something like that. That finally pushes her through.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really conflicted on it, but I really want to see it. I mean, they're going to have it happen. I actually think it might be smart to bump it up, because I don't think it would take too much away from having it be something that's, because she still has it when she first becomes an Aes Sedai. Because the scene where she becomes an Aes Sedai, a woman's like, "That's a mistake. You're still working on your block. Come with me."
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure when they're gonna do it exactly.
Yeah. It's being, to me, it's like it's being emphasized, and I would hope that it's not like either she develops a workaround, which in the books is her just like working herself up into a tizzy, like an angry, rage.
I totally get why they're not doing that as much in the show, because it would play into harmful stereotypes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
right. Well, and to me, it got a little tiresome. It's like, okay, like, come on, like you're like a really capable, smart, intelligent woman. Like, other people have broken their blocks. What's taking so long? I guess it's just frustrating. It's a frustrating element to the books, but intentionally so. And so yeah, if they shorten that in the show, I would not be mad. As long as it's like drama, it's like extreme drama, like it was in the books when she finally breaks it.
Yeah. And I like how much they have played up Nynaeve's protective instinct in the show, because I think it's one of their most interesting qualities as a character, that no matter how much Rand becomes the Dragon Reborn, she is someone who till his last day will just view him as the idiot she babysat. And that's a wonderfully wholesome thing, and it's something that gives so much to late Rand and Nynaeve's friendship. It's actually why I think they're one of the best couples, when not like couple, but like whenever they're together on the page, they're one of the most interesting two to have. Because there is Rand becomes to appreciate about her. He's like, yeah, you still see me as Rand, so I know that when we're alone, you're gonna slap me in the back of the head. It's like, I cherish that, and I want to see that side of her never be forgotten in the show.
I mean, at one point in the books, she's the only person that Rand trusts, like in the Cadsuane set, or other than Min. Okay, the only non-romantic person. Like, whenever Cadsuane's like circling and all this other stuff, like she's the only person who's physically present there. Obviously, he would trust Aviendha and Elaine, but that he will be like, no, Nynaeve is the one. Like, like he brings her with him to very important events and all this other stuff, right? Because she's reliable. She's dependable.
She's also the least changed by the world. Don't get me wrong, Nynaeve evolves as a character a lot, but it's not the world inflicting change on her. It's her changing her perspective on things. It's very calculated, reactionary. Despite how emotional she comes across in the books, she's someone who, in terms of how she stands against what she's standing against, Matt goes from being just, I'm getting by the skin of my teeth, to this confident general, and the world has hardened him and all this, where Nynaeve is just still like crushing herbs, like, I could heal you with the power, but you just rip the pain, so drink this.
Yeah, I love her. She's so good. Do you think Matt is going to forget his powers to some extent, or is he going to have them now going forward?
He's going to have them now, I think, going forward. Controversial opinion, they're not going to state the luck as overtly as it's stated in the book. I think they're going to hold back on that a smidge. Okay. In the book, it's just straight up through his gambling stuff, like, oh, look how lucky he is. And I think we'll get that much. But the book goes into it fully being like, if Matt like needs there to be toothpaste, guess who's getting the last of the toothpaste? Like, it is so permeating everything he does that like he gets the perfect mug of beer. Like, it's just always there. If it's chaotic, if it's random, he's gonna come out on top. I think they're going to restrict it because it could, well, in the books, Robert Jordan is able to work around that a lot to still have him in danger in certain ways. In a show where you're not able to clearly define the limits of his luck, where things have to be chaotic, I think they're going to downplay it slightly.
It'll just, things will happen, and it's like, oh, that was lucky. Like, it won't be like him being like, I need my luck to be in. It'll be everyone else being like, huh, that worked out.
Matt has a moment where someone he's sleeping with tries to stab him in the chest, manages to just hit the tiny medallion on his chest, and there happens to be a flaw in the knife that just miraculously happened in its forging so that the knife just breaks. Matt does not have like 1 in 100 chance manipulation. He has like 1 in a bagillion, and he can just make stuff happen. If you think that may like somehow the pattern was like, back when this forger made this knife, he had a couple too many drinks. Like, it is so specific with how it saves him. So you can't have that as overtly in the show, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess it would make sense then to give him his like super good fighting and military stuff earlier then, because then it would like explain his skill and ability to get out of situations.
Totally contradictory to what I said. They need to keep the scene totally to his peak ability when he comes in and just like points out their whole battle strategy, as well as like 2 mistakes they've made, and Lan, after he leaves, is like, what the fuck was that? He's like, that is the most insane thing I've ever seen. And Matt has no idea that he just tore apart their entire battle plan. Like, I want that, because like the humor of this show lines up with that scene 1-to-1. Like, they can absolutely pull that off.
Yeah, I agree. I just like Donal is like, Matt is my second favorite book character, and I feel like Donal's like gonna end up doing that in the show also, because he had some of the funniest moments this season, and he also had some of the most emotional moments. Like, whenever him and Rand reunited, I was just like, oh my god, I'm so happy for you guys.
I didn't even think about that. That's not the Matt that I saw him with, because he sold
it
so well.
He did. And then like whenever he found out that he was a hero too, like that moment, the look on his face, I was like, holy shit, Donal Fenn's a hero of the Horn. He just found out, like, for the first time. This is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, he really crushed that. And so, yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about the acting of the show generally, but
I have a pretty hard question for you, though.
Oh, okay.
Egwene's death in the books is splendid.
Yeah.
Are you emotionally ready to see that in the show?
It's gonna make for my most viewed reaction video ever. I'll just be weeping. I actually, like, I am an Egwene stan, and part of that is that her end is so spectacular, and it middle fingers all the people who call her selfish. Like, you would not believe the number of people on the interwebs, in the discourse, who say that Egwene is like selfish and like just ambitious and only wants, power. I'm just like, did you read all the books? Like, you see what she did? You know what I mean? Like, for the good of mankind? I don't know. So, yeah, like, she should still die, I think. And just the way that she sold the torture at the hands of Rena, or Denna.
Brenna.
Thank you.
I know because I keep wanting to call her Renee because apparently she's like a 70s house mom. I don't know what the hell.
I keep wanting to call her Denna probably because of Terry Goodkind books.
Wait, you're reading some CG?
No. I did back in the
sorry.
day. Like no. No, I actually donated those that I had in the past. But no, so like the way that she sold that interaction, I think just like she is going to literally rip our hearts out and make it into some kind of crystallized firestone when she dies. And it's going to be one of the best things, probably the best thing we'll ever see on TV. That's what I'm expecting.
I know we need to wrap up soon, but I also want to say the one thing that's not the. So there's a lot of things where I'm like, oh, this was cut. This is like the worst thing cut. But a small thing that's been cut that's driving me nuts.
Okay.
I love Drakkar and I love Darkhounds. And I'm like, we can't just have Trollocs and Myrddraal the whole time. Give me Drakkar and Darkhounds. Darkhounds are so creepy. They are so, like, how they leave footprints in stone is wild. It's one of my favorite details all the time. It's badass.
It's cool.
And we haven't gotten some good. I want good, evil, good boys.
I get it. And I'm wondering, the drag car, I'm wondering if they're saving them for that, like, assault on, I don't think it's Cold Rock's Hold. It's somewhere where they are with the Aiel, and they, like, show up, and they have, like, a distraction where Trollocs or something attack the camp, and then the drag car come for Rand, if you remember that. Yep. It happens in book 4. And so, if we don't get drag car for a scene like that, I don't think we're going to get drag car. But I think until that scene happens, or like something like that happens, there's a chance.
Such a good job with the practical effects for the Trollocs and stuff. I know they put in so much time and effort, and it's a huge drain in the budget to do all these distinct looks for Trollocs because they've done bird and bear and boar. Yeah. Wonderful. Just give me a little more. Just give more money to the practical effects. It's never a mistake to give more money to the practical effects crew.
It's true.
And it's that. Well, I also think backing up that thought from you, we didn't get Shan Chan.
Racken and Toe Racken.
Toe Racken. And I don't know if we will, because that's a really big ask, and you can't do those with practical effects as well, which that makes me sad.
I'm thinking. Again, I'm an optimistic person. I'm thinking that, like, if they come back, if the Shan Chan come back in, like, let's say season 4 or 5, if we get them, maybe then that'll be the justification, like, oh, this is the actual return. We've got the Daughter of the Nine Moons on board, and therefore we brought our Rockin' this time. You know what I mean? Like, and they'll have a higher budget if they're renewing the show and it's gaining popularity like it did from season 1 to season 2. And so I could see that in my happy little optimism brain working out, that they had more money for CGI by then, and then the Rockin' can show up, and the justification will be, oh, this is the actual return.
Fair. You know? It just would make me wonder, like, how screwed were the people they sent without the basically dragons? Like, it's such a mean move. Like, okay, this is our main landing force. You guys are the first wave. Do we get the walking scaly tanks? No. you don't get those.
We also didn't see I was about to say elephants. We didn't see the shredded either, the elephants. But
or the three-eyed toads, which are basically the rock, like they are essentially the ones we get when Rand goes with Huron to the Grom, which are similar to the Shan Chan's beasts, if I remember correctly. Like
they are. I think they're the same.
I thought they had evolved to be a bit different.
Oh, maybe.
Like Rand jumps to that world that's like all broken, so I think the physical description of them in that world is slightly
different. Okay.
Because they note it's not 1-to-1. I think.
I believe you.
I could be misremembering, but I think that. I wrote so much Wheel of Time fanfic when I was a kid. I sometimes confuse my Wheel of Time fanfic with the real story. Shut up.
That's fair. It's fine. It's fine.
I lived in this world.
No judgment.
So like. I don't know. I really want to bring them in because I love weird fantasy creatures, and we don't get enough of those. And the Trollocs have been done great. The Myrddraal, I love.
Yeah.
I like that they look more CG than the Trollocs because they are supposed to not be like totally in sync with reality. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm all for it. Do you think we're gonna get Shada Haran?
Yeah. Because can you imagine like a talking Fade, like step 2? You know what I? Well, I guess they all talk. In the books they talk, but he is kind of like, it's basically, if we get Shada Haran, spoilers for the origins of the Wheel of Time, the new book, because we find out who a character is. But if we get Shida Haran, that means I think we're getting Nakomi. If we don't get Shida Haran, we don't get Nakomi, I think, right? Because Nakomi is supposed to be... Have you read Origins of the Wheel of Time?
No, I have. Yeah. But that's the thing, like, once you introduce Shada Haran, he's connected to a lot of the deep lore stuff. Like, if you don't really pay attention, kind of feels like he comes out of nowhere. And, like, his explanation... So I'm hoping the show, if they're going to do that, they start explaining a lot of, like, the deeper, like, how he is, like, kind of a vassal, but not... Like, it's really nuanced what exactly he is. It's hard to define without getting into, like, some of the heavier stuff.
Yeah, I can see, like, the casual viewer kind of equating him to, like, the mouth of Sauron or something, like, you know, like, oh, he's like the spokes guy. You know, he's like the Dark One's mouth, essentially. So, I don't know. I feel like people will chalk it up to that if we don't get, like, the deeper lore explanations. So it could work.
I just don't want him to come across as, like, Murdral 2.0. That would be the mistake.
Okay, well, that's fair.
Come across as, like, oh, this is our better Murdral. Like, don't do that. That's not what Shadar Haran is. Shadar Haran is someone who can cow a Forsaken. Like, he is way beyond what a Murdral is. He is, like, nightmare brought to reality, which Wheel of Time does literally do.
Literally, yeah.
And sorry, speaking of things we're looking forward to, I will eventually stop talking to you about Wheel of Time and let you go, I promise.
That's what we're here for. What are you talking about?
I am salivating at the idea of seeing live action Wise Ones teaching Aes Sedai how to use Telebron Riyadh. Fun that could be had with that, especially with how pompous the Aes Sedai have been in the show and how, like, blunt and in your face the Aiel are being set up to be. That's going to be comedy gold. Like, straight up beautiful if it's done well.
I agree. Just, like, like, even the Aes Sedai getting put in their place by the White Swans, peak comedy in Teleron Road, but also just, like, the fact that the girls will be, like, looking in their mirror and thinking about something, and then their outfits change, and then one of them shows up and they're like, what are you wearing? You know what I mean? Like, that kind of a thing. Like, also the fact that we're getting the sea folk, like, that's one of the situations where, like, Elaine gets on a sea folk ship and they're, like, topless with, like, earrings everywhere, and then Egwene shows up at Teleron Road and Elaine's topless with earrings everywhere, and she's like, what the F is happening? Like, that could be fun. That could be really fun. I like that a lot.
I remember thinking when I was a little kid, when she had, like, piercings all over, I was like, if you get hurt in the world of dreams,
it stays.
Then stays. So are those piercings? And then I was like, okay, just don't worry about that.
They're clip-ons.
They're clip-ons.
Just assume they're clip-ons. That would be a funny question to ask Harriet. Like that. I wonder if nobody has asked that, because that's so interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm sure there's... First of all, let's just call Matt Hatch. Like, Matt Hatch is the one who made me finally understand, like, Shadar Haran is, like, so, like, he is the voice of the Dark One, but he is not the Dark One. He's the one who finally, because he's the one who's actually got to sit down and, like, go through Robert Jordan's notes. Like,
right, yeah.
He told me the weird, deep stuff where it's, like, what the Ogier were originally. Like, that weird stuff where it's, like, this is what? Because, you know, we all know that originally Rand was actually supposed to be like sci-fi man versus evil space. It was like way more early Wheel of Time was way more Scientology than, like, people realize, not like actually, but like in concept. And I don't know. I want more of those weird things left over from Robert Jordan's beginning notes, because I like the weird. Like, the Aelfin and Eelfin are totally just leftover weird garbledy-gook that Robert Jordan was like, I'm not taking away my fox snake people. You can't have them.
There's a board game in the books. We gotta have that mean something. I don't know. Why does he have that accent? Don't ask. Like, no idea.
Made Robert Jordan into Joe Pesci.
Forgive me, for I have sinned.
I would actually everyone was so excited for Wheel of Time Origins, and it was a cool thing to get. I want Robert Jordan's original vision for Wheel of Time published. I want the weird spaceman sci-fi epic that was just a total result of what he did in the 60s brought to the pages, and then the screen. I want the adaptation too.
That would be something else. We're talking like Twilight Zone, you know, Outer Limits, Wheel of Time edition.
Have you seen the like the photos of like Robert Jordan with tigers and stuff? Like, I think so many people picture him as like an old fuddy-duddy Tolkien guy. Robert Jordan was like going to Vegas with his Wheel of Time money and balling out.
Literally most interesting man in the world. Like, literally. Like, in Origins, for example, and this obviously is just like one thing of many, but like he went to war, right? And he was a helicopter gunner and allegedly shot like a missile out of the air. Like, what kind of, like, what are we talking about? Like, I don't know. He seems like such a, he
has a degree in like nuclear science, like so much stuff that like when you learn about him, and it makes sense. Like when you read the Wheel of Time, you're like, oh yeah, you're a nerd. Like you are for sure a nerd.
Well, yeah, and then whenever you read Origins, you're like, dear God, like this isn't just like he had a fixation on Norse mythology. It's like he knew all the things about mythology and like history. Like he pulls from literally everywhere. It's inspiring, honestly.
He was so creative, and like the only word that comes to mind is zany. Like he just and that's why his cultures, I feel like, work so well and don't just feel like, oh, this is a Norse stand-in. Like the reason the Sea Folk actually feel like really different is they're formulated from like 6 different cultures that he just pulled from, but he didn't just randomly pull. He pulled things that made sense and worked together. Aiel, Shan-Chan, even the countries within the land, like the Karian has like some of that like the political house stuff going on that is so kind of what also inspired Game of Thrones.
It's like very French.
Yeah. And then you have Andor, which is like Rome and England, like those two things together. And then he even brought in Alexander the Great and was like, I'm calling you Arthur Hawkwing. You're Alexander the Great.
It's fine.
You're also apparently a Texan. We're not going
to... Yeah, at least you'll give birth to Texas. Let's I have immense respect for him. I wish I could have met him in real life. But yeah,
it's my biggest regret. I never got to meet him.
Yeah, but at least we got the Wheel of Time, his baby, to talk about ad nauseum forever and happily. Like, yeah.
Can I bring this to an end by telling my very embarrassing meeting Harriet story?
Absolutely.
Have I told you this?
I don't think so.
It was my first time ever at JordanCon. So I was nervous. I was meeting fans that knew far more than me. I felt imposter syndrome, like all this stuff. And I sat in the lobby of the hotel, meeting a couple fans. It was really fun. They were so polite. And this woman sits next to me, and she just starts being nice. And I'm talking with her, and I can't hear very well. I have crowd hearing issues, so I really struggle in crowds to actually make out what people are saying. And I started talking to her about like that's just my cat. I was like, oh yeah, like the background of my phone is my cat at the time. She made a comment. I was like, oh, it's Pips, like named after the horse. And then she said something about like the origin name of like where that came from. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like I don't understand what you're saying. And she's like, that's where that came from. And I was like, how do you know that? And it's like, I'm Harriet, Robert Jordan's wife,
the editor of the Wheel of Time. Like,
I'm so sorry. Who are you to the surviving editor who like did all this stuff for it? And I was like, and I have not spoken to her since. That is her one interaction with me. She thinks I'm probably very stupid, and she doesn't know who I am.
Oh my gosh. That's an incredible way to end the stream, I think. I want to say thank you to the chat, first of all, and thank you so much to my moderators. I see you there handling anything, reminding people of spoiler levels, all that stuff. You guys are the best. Jessica
Mods are always the
and
best.
Daniel, love you guys. And also, Daniel, thank you for joining. This was so much fun. I'm so happy that we got to finally talk about the Wheel of Time again. It's been since like WotCon, the first WotCon, so in 2022, I guess.
Yeah, that was after London for sure.
And then London was the last time before that. So yeah, it's like such a pleasure talking to you and getting to nerd out about the Wheel of Time with you.
Yeah, thank you. If you were the one who you've recommended some books to me that I read that I actually need to talk with you about off stream. So we'll do that eventually. I also am shocked to learn you've read Terry Goodkind, so we can talk about that as well.
It was in a former life.
How did you feel about the chicken?
I don't want to talk about it. I just know we can talk about it later.
Sorry, whatever. I'm not going to take any more of your time. Anyway.
What?
I was gonna say, you know about him like dissing Wheel of Time. Well,
Yeah,
obviously,
no, I've done some
Wheel of
TikToks about
Time.
him. I've
Yeah.
done some TikToks about
My
this.
books aren't influenced by the Wheel of Time at all. Anyway, here's the Aes Sedai. I mean,
Also, one of my books is going to be called The Stone of Tears. Very different. Very different.
I'm
Sorry.
not a fantasy author. Every time I hear that you say that, I just remember that one thing, that like meme video where it's like, I am not a rapper. Like that is a good kind of me. Like I'm not a fantasy author.
I love that this devolved into a Terry Goodkind bashing session.
My next first and last, the video where I read like the first chapter of a book and the last and try to fill in what happened in between. Next we're doing is a good kind of book, so I can't wait.
I will be watching that, absolutely. Okay. We're gonna call it here. Thank you again, Daniel. Thank you to everyone. If you haven't liked the stream yet, consider doing that because it super helps. And then we'll have to make it less time in between us talking about the Wheel of Time and other books.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, have an amazing evening, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Bye, guys. I am going to